started.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 4:02. I always wanted to bang that, thank you.
You got to unmute yourself too
Oh, I do?
at the bottom.
Okay, there we go, sorry. It is 4:02, and we're going to call this meeting to order. Thank you. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure.
Trustee Chichester will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Chichester. We'll move on to item B, approval of a flexible agenda. We have trustees reserve the right to take the item in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner. Someone,
I'd move a flexible agenda. I'll second.
okay, flexible agenda by Trustee Chichester, seconded by Trustee Kangas. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor to approve the flexible agenda, say aye.
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 Okay. Say, who are, oh, Heather, are you here voting?
Yeah,
Are
I
you
said
on?
aye.
I cannot, I don't see her. I see a waterfall.
I can't put, I
And
don't
Rob, I
have
don't
video.
know that you're on either. Are you there? Heather, can you say aye or?
I just
Aye.
heard say she has issues with video.
Okay, and then I'll go ahead and let you, when you vote, go vote by yourself. Wow. I don't think Trustee Lehman's on though, is he?
He won't be on until.
Right, okay. Okay, it passes 6-0. Thank you. No nays. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, consent. Okay. Everyone was given the consent items for possible action. Does anyone want anything pulled from the consent item at this time? What's going on?
It's got to be muted.
What's the matter?
My,
Oh, yours came off.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did
All
something.
right. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties. But we'll continue. Does anyone want, I'll repeat, does anyone want anything pulled from the consent items? Heather?
Nope.
I can't hear her.
I move to approve the consent calendar as published.
I second
Need a
it.
second? What?
This needs to be.
Can you hear me,
You
Linda?
Still here? Okay. All right, so consent item. Ross, did you? Made the motion, thank you, and seconded by Trustee Engelkirk. Okay, any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, we're on to item 3, introduction and special recognition. I'm going to turn this over to Superintendent Lewis at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, President Gilkerson. We've got several recognitions. Tonight, we are fortunate. Today, we had a steering committee meeting of our EPIC Learning Committee. And so today, for the first time, she's been able to travel in many, many months from the beautiful state of Colorado. Tonight, we have Lizette Casey with us. She's the Modern Teacher Strategy Officer assigned to Douglas County School District. And so Lizette has done an amazing job with us as a district to guide us through our journey in modern teacher and EPIC learning, and has had a lot of patience with us and had to be very flexible as we've rolled out EPIC learning in a pandemic era as well. So I just wanted you as a board to be able to meet Lizette and to publicly thank her for the great work she's doing with us and will continue to do with us along this journey.
Thank you. And I'll just say one thing. It's a pleasure to work with this team here in Douglas County. I work with a lot of school districts all over the country doing this work. It is very individualized, And it involves a lot of work after I leave. So I come and we talk and we have these really incredible conversations, but there's a lot of homework to be done and a lot of legwork that happens after I leave. So the real credit goes to your amazing team of administrators, teachers, so dedicated to kids first, and it's just a joy for me. So I'm so happy to be here today, finally on site, and continue this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette.
Thank you, Lizette.
The next recognition is a little dated and a little overdue, but I wanted to officially recognize Mike Rex as the permanent principal at Douglas High School here in our front row. As you know, Mr. Rex was hired as the interim principal for DHS, and the board approved my recommendation to remove that interim tag on Mike's title during the March 9th, 2021 board meeting. Mr. Rex and his team have done an outstanding job leading Douglas High School during a very challenging year. Not only did we ask Mike to be a first-time principal, then we equipped him with 3 vice principals who were also in their first year as administrators at Douglas High School. And so they've just done an amazing job as a team during this difficult time. I also want to take a quick moment to express my gratitude to Mike for an amazing graduation ceremony on Saturday. He looked like a veteran up there on stage and did an outstanding job, he and his staff. So welcome officially, Mr. Rex, and I introduce him to the board. And then also you see 3 unfamiliar faces in our front row today. Douglas County School District just completed the 2020-21 school year for all of our Valley and online schools, and we will do the same at our Lake schools in 7 days. It has truly been an amazing accomplishment that all of our DCSD schools have been able to offer full in-person learning to our students. There are a lot of unsung heroes that have helped make learning possible in DCSD this year. Many are affiliated with DCSD, but some are not employed or directly affiliated with the district. I have asked 3 of these unsung heroes to join us today so that we can publicly recognize them and their absolutely incredible service to Douglas County School District. I'm going to get emotional because of the amazing job they've done. With us today is Jeannie Freeman. Jeannie is the Public Health Preparedness Manager with Carson City Health and Human Services. Colleen Barrett, epidemiologist with the Carson City Health and Human Services, and Tara Barnett, epidemiologist, and she was hired later in the process to be the school biostatistician liaison. And so we worked directly with Tara kind of midway through the year upon her hire. Over the past year, I've said many times that our ability to stay open is directly related to our local health district, and DCSD has great benefit for being under Carson City Health and Human Services. They have approached this pandemic very evenly keeled, and they did not overreact with over-identifying close contacts, nor did they encourage us to shut down our classrooms and schools upon having a few cases, something we have seen in other locations. Their approach obviously was a success as we remained open the entire year, and we did so without taking unnecessary risk. Carson City Health and Human Services played a huge role in our reopening plan and protocol development. They were always amazingly fast at updating any guidance as changes were made by the CDC and the state health department. When the vaccine was made available to our DCSD staff, they quickly got vaccination clinics scheduled and provided multiple opportunities for our staff to get vaccinated if they chose to do so. It's important to know that Jeannie, Colleen, and Tara don't just serve DCSD. They serve the entire Quad County, which includes Carson City, Story County, and Lyon County school districts. Despite that level of responsibility, they have made themselves available to my staff and I from day one and have answered their email and cell phone any hour of the day and even on weekends. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciated early on in this adventure to be in the office at 7 o'clock and to know they would answer a question with, to give us an answer to help guide us. At the start of the school year, it was not uncommon to talk to Jeannie or Colleen almost nightly and often well after 5 p.m. Tara was hired later in the year, and she was just as available and accessible to answer every question we have had. None of our stupid questions or questions we had already asked multiple times were ever treated as a burden or that we were an annoyance. Jeannie, Colleen, and Tara met with all the Quad County school districts every Friday afternoon to ensure we were all on the same page, to give us information on any new guidance, and to share best practices and lessons learned by districts along the way. Plain and simple, they have been responsive to every need we have had, and I can't even begin to imagine how this year may have looked if we had not been fortunate to have these three work with us. As I hope is quite evident, I have the greatest respect in the world for these three ladies, and on behalf of Douglas County School District, I think it's necessary and appropriate to publicly say thank you. We could not have educated our students without you.
Stand up, Pat.
Thank you, and as I told them, they're not rude if they want to leave.
Thank you so much.
Made them all cry. What'd you do?
All right, I'm done.
That's it.
That was harder than I thought.
Good job. All right, next we'll move to item number 4, the Nevada Association of School Boards. The only thing that I have to, that's Exodus. Bye.
Where are you guys going? Who said you could leave?
They
That
had-
is rude.
Yeah, they had their cupcake and now they're leaving. All right, moving on, the NASB report. The one thing I would like to report is you were all sent a list of categories on which to nominate for NASB awards. What we're going to do this year is we're going to look for 3 volunteers, because we're not going to make it a committee so that we can meet. We like to try to keep this a little hush-hush and not try to announce who it is so that there's a bit of a surprise to it. So what I'm looking for is anyone that would like to be on this committee. We'll just meet probably, I've said committee, sorry, that would like to volunteer to do this work. And it would probably only have to meet one time. It's not a big commitment, just so you know. Is there anyone on the board that would be interested in doing this?
Linda, if you could
Everybody
hear me,
raise their
Heather
hand.
would be.
Who was that?
I would, Heather would.
Thanks, Heather. I will also volunteer to do this. And if we can get,
I'll be the third.
thank you, Trustee Kangas. So we have Trustee Gilkerson, Kangas, and Jackson. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, we're going to move on to item number 5, board reports. And this is the time if anyone on the board has something they'd like to share or something that they've done between the last meeting and now. Go ahead. I can start down here. Doug. We appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it? Oh, you got to talk into your mic more, honey. That's all. That's okay.
We had a fun time for me to see some campuses because I don't get out that much with work and all. So it was nice.
And thank you. We appreciate it.
I think Doug was there too. We did attend that last DPAC meeting of the year, and we're looking for the schedule for next season.
Next season. Heather, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yeah, I attended the Aspire and the DHS graduation and was very impressed with both. It was very exciting to see all the kids that graduated from Aspire and to hear their little speeches. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Heather. I also, and so did Trustee Kangas, went to the graduation DHS, and I attended the Aspire as well, as did Carrie. And the other thing I got to do was speak at the 8th grade graduation at Powwow. Started about 3-4 years ago. They've invited me to come do that. And it's kind of one of my highlights at the end of the year as well. All right, moving on to correspondence.
Yeah, I'd like to
Oh,
add.
sorry.
And I'd like to add, I should have said that about the graduations, and both graduations were spectacular. Well done.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to correspondence. Would anyone like to speak on receiving any correspondence or share?
I got a email from Tracy Protell about the school start time, wanting to start school a little bit later.
Okay, I think everyone, I thank you, Heather, for bringing that up. I think we all received that email as well.
And I think there were a couple of emails about the mask mandate also.
Yeah, somewhere in there, huh? Okay. Then we'll move on to the item 7, the superintendent report. Superintendent Lewis?
Thank you. I want to start out tonight acknowledging the United Way of Northern Nevada made a donation to C.C. Meneely Elementary School for summer reading bags for our K second grade students. I attended, Linda reminded me, I attended both the CVMS and 8th grade promotion ceremonies, had the opportunity to speak at the CVMS opportunity. Then I attended the Aspire Academy High School graduation on last Friday and the Douglas High School graduation last Saturday. Both were obviously great celebrations of the class of 2021, and I just want to publicly acknowledge Aspire Principal Gavin Ward and Douglas High School Principal Mike Rex, along with their staffs for organizing the events. We look forward to celebrating George Wittell's high school class of 2021 at 3:00 p.m. On Friday, June 18th. So next Friday. I'll also be attending the adult ed and high set graduations, which will be held at Aspire Academy High School tomorrow late afternoon. I wanted to keep the board last regular meeting. One of the camp officials from China Springs Youth Camp spoke to the board about summer school, so I just want to keep the board up to date on that. DCSD's MOU with Jacobson High School is for 180 days of instruction, so for the school year itself. As you know, we met with China Springs over 2 months ago, and we notified them that DCSD would not be assuming the costs of summer school. We did not hear back from China Springs administration for over 2 months regarding that issue. And quite frankly, we're struggling as a district to staff our own summer school. And so we're not going to be able to provide summer school to the camp. Some of you may have heard, it's become public knowledge that the camp is going to be closing their boys program due to staffing issues. They're having trouble finding staff that can staff their boys program. So that'll be closing here towards the end of June. They hope it's a temporary closing, looking hopefully for a 6-month close down and being able to reopen. And at that time we'll adjust, but it will. We had hired, as I had talked to you about our plan for delivering instruction next year, we're going to staff them with 2 instructional assistants. We'd hired one, we'll had one available, so we've pulled that position down, and we'll start off the year at maybe an enrollment at the max of 20 camp to start the next school year. So just giving you an update on where that stands. In terms of the district budget, we received preliminary funding figures from the state, and our projected revenue for the 2021-22 school year is approximately $4 million. In the May final budget, Sue had projected our funding to be approximately $55.4 million. So at that point, it appeared that the revenue would be about $1.4 million short of our projection. Today, there's lots of talk amongst district superintendents in terms of transparency of what is actually included in the funding that they're telling us. It looks like they've moved some categorical, and so we have a state superintendent's meeting on Monday. The Department of Ed will be there, and I anticipate a very lively discussion in terms of trying to get some transparency around those numbers. Right now, it looks like our class size reduction, which has been a separate categorical funding source, is included in the funding in that in the 54 million figure, and so we could possibly be about 2.8 million short of what our projected budget that you passed last month. Two notes, as I talked about last budget, that we were about 1.2 million up in revenue due to hold harmless. So we weren't anticipating a big issue. We may have to use some of our federal ESSER money to fill that gap for the short term, obviously long term. My plan would be to come to you in July with a definitive explanation of where the budget is. Long term, where we, the priorities of the board, and that's a big item that has been out there. It's not panic time. Again, the ESSER money will help us in the short term, but long term, we're going to have to look at where we are and where that funding. So just keep me updated on that. And as I learn more, I won't wait till July. I'll keep you updated as a board where we're at. So July, there's no surprises on that front. Okay. And we're just working through a lot of numbers today. I was in meetings and wanted to get to my spreadsheets and calculators, start running some numbers. But again, we'll be meeting with state on Monday and hopefully have a little bit more clarity on that. The legislative session, as you know, has come and gone, and there are still a lot of bills that have not been signed yet that will eventually be signed. A couple highlights, AB 194 requires the district to include information on plans for restorative justice in the process for progressive discipline used by the school, as well as information on how the school trains employees on restorative justice and progressive discipline. The reason why I'm making this of note, it also requires the Board of Trustees to adopt a policy that allows a pupil, or if the pupil is under 18 years of age, the parent or legal guardian of the pupil to appeal the suspension or expulsion. So we're going to have to come up with a policy that if we are to suspend or expel a student, that there's an appeal process. So we'll be working on that and getting more guidance on that bill, but just kind of wanted to bring that to your attention. SB 102, existing law requires that a child must be 5 years of age on or before September 30th to be admitted to kindergarten. So the old date was September 30th. They've now changed that to the first day of school. So in Douglas County, that actually moves that date up to, it could be August 9th this year. This bill will not go into effect for a whole year, but in that initial year, we will see a decline in our kindergarten enrollment. When we ran some preliminary numbers, there was approximately about 60 kids that fell with birthdays in that window between the first day of school and September 30th. So in that initial year, some kids will not be eligible who would have previously been eligible to start kindergarten. Obviously, those numbers then will catch up in the following year and will balance out. But that's going to be something that we watch moving forward as well. And then just AB 253 is a bill that requires public bodies that use remote technology. So when we use Zoom, just changes some of the notice requirements of the public meeting. So we have to now include how a member of the public may hear, observe, participate in, and provide public comment at the meeting through the remote system. So our notice will have to include that information a little bit more clearly. So I will continue to keep you updated. I will also send you, we get a nice update from our lobbyist that works with the Nevada Association of School Superintendents. I'll send that out to you so you can, for your reading pleasure. All those lovely bills that are coming out that impact us one way or the other. That is all I have tonight, believe it or not. Questions though? Doug.
You mentioned restorative justice and another phrase on one of the earlier items.
Progressive discipline.
Progressive discipline.
Yeah.
What exactly is restorative justice?
So restorative justice is, John, are you? It's on, it just must not be closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is restorative justice?
So restorative justice is allowing a student to make the wrong right. And so we work on a plan. So when we suspend a student, we have to have a restorative justice plan. So when they come back, how are they going to make amends for what they've done? And so that's kind of a very quick summary of it. And then progressive discipline obviously is, that in most cases you're working, the consequences become more significant the number of times you see them. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to item number 8. And Sue's here to speak on this. It's the consideration of the final 2020-2021 budget amendments and augmentations. Thank you, Sue.
There were no, can you hear me? Okay, there were no augmentations, but it, as is according to statute, we do have to amend budgets that submitted in December that shows where everything is supposed to be spent. And this is where we true up all of those numbers. So the budgets that you see, the resos that are required are for each fund. There's a group of other funds that includes multiple funds, and then the debt service. So all of these resos are required by law to actually move the funds around so that we aren't in violation of overspending functions. So that's basically what this June amendment really is all about. So,
Okay. Do we have any questions for Sue?
So it's not, we're adding anything to the budget. It's just,
No.
we're transferring money to the actual line items it was spent in.
yeah, the violation comes when we overspend functions.
Right.
So
Yeah.
schools and the districts will, or the departments and stuff will move their money around so that they don't overspend the particular functions. Yeah.
Got it.
So that's basically all that the June amendment really does. There have been times when we've had to augment the
Right.
funds, but not at this
Not
particular
this
time.
year. Thank
Right.
you.
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing that there's no questions, on these resolutions, we have to motion them, vote on each one individually, okay? So we'll start with Resolution 2101. If someone would like to make a motion,
I'll make a motion. I move that the board approve number 2101, resolution to augment and amend the general fund for the fiscal year 2020 through 2021.
could I get a?
Second it.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment on this issue? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it to a vote. All those in favor to approve, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The motion passes 6-0. Okay, number 2102.
I'd move to adopt resolution 2102 as submitted by Business Services.
Okay.
I second it.
Up. Thanks, Heather. I think Ross jumped on that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. And do we have any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And then the third one,
I'd move to approve resolution 2103 as submitted by Business Services.
need a second?
I'll second it. Did I make it that time? No?
I'm
gotta
sorry,
move in
Heather, you
this
got to move
crowd.
quick.
I guess so.
Okay,
I think I'm
motion
delayed.
made. Motion made by trustee Chichester, seconded by trustee Magnata. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, we'll move on to item 9. Sue, stay right there. You're up
am.
again. And this is a resolution to adopt a special revenue fund. And you can go ahead and explain that to us.
GASB, which is our Governmental Accounting Standards Board, required in this particular year, well, actually it passed last year, but it's just finally moved forward. GASB 84 requires a special revenue fund to account for all student activity funds. So whatever is done at the school level that we receive reports on, and it is right now in our financial statements as just a balance that they have, right? So we will have to incorporate that into a special fund so that you show total revenue and you show total expenditures, and we start with the balance that we had last year. And hopefully we don't overspend anything, but we will have, if for some reason those come in because we don't have any idea about what those funds really are going to look like at the end of the year. If for some reason we don't have enough in the budget, but I did try to create a budget that was accommodating to at least incorporate all the revenue and expenditures. So that's basically all there is. We're adopting this new fund that will now be part of the financial statements, and it will show that exact thing just like all our other funds. So,
Okay, thank you.
and I think it's a really good thing because I think student activity funds are really kind of obscure. You know, they do their own spending, they do, and the auditors are supposed to be auditing them, but it's very hard to actually get to 12 schools and audit these student activity funds. So this will now be a part of what their audit will encompass.
And everything funnels through you.
Yep.
I just wanted to confirm, this is a state requirement,
Mhm.
so we have little
Yeah,
choice. Yes.
we were forced to do this.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions by board members? See. Thank you, trustee Engelkirk. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, trustee Chichester seconded it. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing not, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay,
you got to
sorry.
sit up or move them into you. Okay. But you know what? Let's go. Did you hear something different? I'm sorry.
That's what we were talking about. That's correct.
Sorry.
Okay. Are we okay?
Should
It's,
I make it again?
we have to
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and restate your
Sorry.
motion.
Okay, approve resolution 2104 to create special revenue fund, to account for all revenue and expenditures held at each school site for their student activity funds.
Okay. and then-
Second.
Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none. We've already voted. We'll vote one more time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10. Mr. Lewis?
So, Mr. Lewis, I'd like to apologize for not telling you that our location changed over to the Commons here. Brandon Lewis is here to discuss with us annual renewal of workers' compensation and bond renewal. We're very grateful to have Brandon as he guides us through a very complicated subject of insurance. So welcome, Brandon. Again, I'm sorry we set you on a wild goose chase.
But we do have a cupcake for you when you're done, so that'll make you feel
In
better.
our search and rescue,
That's right. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity here. Be happy to provide a overview here. We're glad to help the school district with the excess workers' comp and surety bond this year. The workers' comp market is not quite as challenging as the broader property and casualty market, but your incumbent insurance company, Safety National, is making some major changes. And we started catching wind of it about a month or two ago when they told us, some of our East Coast colleagues told us they were increasing minimum premiums to $150,000 for municipalities. And for some of our smaller municipalities in the state of Nevada, that's a significant jump. So we started talking to Mr. Gerdner and Mr. Lewis about that, and finally learned that Safety National was increasing their minimum for school districts to $100,000, which wasn't as bad, but for your expiring premium of just under $48,000, that's a significant jump. So we worked with Mr. Gerdner to complete applications. We submitted applications to several markets for the excess workers' comp. You can see those here inside the board packet. There's only a handful of markets for this coverage for excess workers' comp. There's a couple other markets we did not approach because their minimum premiums are $200,000 or more. So just kind of knowing where we were and what our targets were. On our first page of our summary for the excess workers' comp, you can see we received 3 quotes: Liberty Mutual, Safety National, your current carrier, and Star Insurance Company, which is US Specialty. Midwest Employers was not able to quote in time, but based on my experience working with them, I don't anticipate that they would be competitive with the best quotes that we have. You can see in the renewal options, renewal option 2, I believe, is the one that's listed in the staff report, with US Specialty, Star Insurance Company, maintaining your current self-insured retention of $400,000. And that premium is quoted at $62,539. That's still a jump from last year. It's up 32% on your expiring premium. But what we wanted to do is keep you as close as we could to last year's versus going to Safety National's premium, which is just above 111,000. You'll see some other options from US Specialty increasing your retention. We did not recommend increasing that at this time. We'll be working with the district over the next year to do some more in-depth loss analysis. And honestly, the claims history is good. There's about 30 claims a year on average. So there's not a lot there to even analyze. What we might do is even broaden it and look at other school districts just to get some more benchmark data. But you'll see some other options there under 3 and 4. And the last option came from Liberty Mutual, which is a good company and a good quote, but the premium was in the middle range at 78,000. The second component of being self-insured for workers' comp is under Nevada law, you have to provide us a form of security, whether it's a cash deposit or a bond. And in this case, you have a bond in place. Safety National is still providing your bond, and they're more than willing to continue doing that, even if we switch the workers' comp carrier. They quoted an 11% increase on the bond, which on the second page of our summary, you'll see the premium going from $4,440 to $4,495. We checked with Travelers because they provide bonds for several other of our self-insured clients in Nevada. Oh, my apologies. You may just have the first page. Good.
Yeah, we just have the first, it's item 10.
Okay.
Okay.
That's, sorry about that, Joe. I think we added that late in the process. Sorry about that. So that will be provided, but it details the current bond with Safety National going from about 4,000 to 4,900. Travelers took a look at it and reviewed the financials, and they said they wouldn't be competitive. They didn't know the current rate you have, but when we compared it, it would be about 50% higher. So we'd recommend staying with Safety National for the bond portion itself. And I apologize that that wasn't available to the board.
Got it.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
When it says self-insured retention, can you explain that to me? I'm not sure what that term means.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So when you purchase insurance, you might normally have a deductible on your homeowners. A deductible is something where the insurance carrier will pay the claim less the deductible. In this case, a self-insured retention means the entity is actively choosing to be self-insured for that amount. So the district is responsible to manage claims within that 400,000. The district has a TPA, a CCMSI on contract to be the claims administrator, which is very common. But the district is responsible there. It's the difference over a deductible is you have the responsibility to manage the claim. With a deductible, the insurance company would manage it for you and just maybe bill you back for the deductible. But it gives you more leeway as a district to manage those claims and stay on top of them.
So is the 400,000 then what we're responsible to pay, or is that what the insurance company pays up to?
Oh, the 400,000 is what the district is responsible for.
We're responsible for up to 400,000. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And it's a per occurrence retention. So it could be one employee injured in a slip and fall, or it could be 4 employees injured in one auto incident. It's a per occurrence retention for each occurrence that you may have. But the insurance company is responsible for any loss excess of that. And we call it a statutory limit. There's no dollar limit on your workers' comp. Your excess carrier will pay whatever's required by the law on those claims above your 400,000.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Sure. Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. Yeah, on this second page that we had added, shows the bond summary. Safety National is the incumbent, and Travelers is the one we checked with. They declined just because they would be significantly higher if they quoted the bond. But the renewal went up about 11%. That was a rate increase from Safety National. A lot of that's based on financials. They look at of each entity that they provide a bond for because they're acting as a surety for the district. But it's also just reflective of the broader market. We're seeing some slight rate increases on the bond side.
I'm having trouble. What is that number? I can't.
Oh, okay. It is, the expiring is 4,440, the renewal will be 4,000.
Thank
It was
you.
about a $550.
Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have any other questions from anyone?
Madam Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion.
So in terms of motion, we are recommending option number 2 under the renewal option.
Right, yeah. Okay. So I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve a 1-year renewal of the district's excess workers' compensation with U.S. Specialty Star, option number 2, and workers' compensation bond coverage with Safety National in the amount of $4,993, and authorize the superintendent to prospectively approve changes in coverage required by the state by the state for the bond or due to changes in payroll expenses. The expenses will be funded out of the district self-insurance workers' compensation fund.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion made and a second. Is there any public comment? No, seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much.
And all those opposed? I think it passed 5-0. Is Heather gone?
I'm there. I'm here. I said
Oh,
aye.
you're here? I'm sorry, Heather. I didn't know you were still there. Did you say aye?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Motion passes 6-0.
I don't see her.
No,
Okay.
he was in a waterfall earlier.
We're going to move on to item number 11. And this is 6th grade move at the Lake Schools for discussion and possible action. And I think we have a couple of people speaking. Mr. Sean.
So Sean, before you start, just in your red folder, and I sent this to you via email today, is just some updated survey information for you to consider as you ponder this decision. And so it's just an update of some of the data that Sean will talk to you about, and he's had some informal discussions as well that he'll talk about.
All right, thank you.
Go. We'll wait for Mr. Enner to find, there it is, that's the one. So President Gilkerson, Vice President Kangas, members of the board, Superintendent Lewis, thank you for letting me be here tonight. What I'd like to share with you is a proposal and some input that we've gathered from the community to potentially move the 6th graders from Zephyr Cove Elementary up the hill to George Whittell Middle School and to be part of that campus. So we've talked about this as an administration up at the lake for the last couple of years, Assistant Principal Sean Ryan and myself, and in conversations with Superintendent Lewis and with my supervisor, Rami Cronin-Mack, we decided to get some input this last spring, and I'll share the proposal and then we'll share the data with you. So the proposal is basically this: to move the 6th graders up to Whittell and to use a school within a school structure. What that would look like for a 6th grade class is that they would have a contained classroom with a dedicated 6th grade teacher during their 4 core subjects, during math, English, science, and social studies. The other 2 periods of the day, because Whittell's on a 6-period schedule, they would be able to engage in some of the electives that middle school students can take, such as art, Spanish, culinary, and drama, as well as some of our support classes. We have a literacy support class and other types of support classes. It also gives students more time in some of what we would call specials at the elementary. For example, 6th graders have PE once a week for about 40 minutes at Zephyr Cove. If 6th graders were up at Whittell, they could potentially have PE twice a week for up to 60 minutes. So more time in recreational athletics, more direct contact with the coaches. A lot of our secondary middle school coaches are employees up at Whittell. And we believe it would give those students kind of more of a true middle school experience, such as students at Pawalu or CVMS. A few other benefits that we believe could potentially happen would be more access to support from our Dean of Students, who's going to be full-time up at Whitell next year, as well as our counselor. And the room that we're proposing to use for our sixth grade is actually right next door to the dean's office and the counselor's office. So very close proximity to the middle of the school. Sixth graders would have limited access to older students. They would only have lunch with seventh and eighth graders. They would have their own nutrition break in the morning, just with sixth graders or mid-morning. And then they would also not be in the hallways when other students are changing classes. So they might have a 5-minute break or a restroom break at a different time. So that's kind of that school within a school model where they're more contained and they have more contact with only sixth graders and potentially seventh or eighth graders during one period of the day. Also, just maybe the potential for some other extracurricular activities that they could engage in up at Whitell, including athletics for middle school students. There is the potential also, we have a grant through Lake Tahoe Community College, and they actually did offer classes for interested middle school students. I know that seems like a big stretch, but we don't, for example, we don't have a music department. So if a middle school student wanted to take an online music class, they might actually be able to do that through Whitell High School and Lake Tahoe Community College. So that's the proposal. I shared a typical day schedule there that you can look at. A proposed sixth grade day, which again shows their 4 cores, a morning elective with only sixth graders, a 6th period elective with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and their own dedicated breaks and middle school lunch. A few other supports on the next page that 6th graders might be able to enjoy. I mentioned most of these. What I forgot to mention was the web class or the web program, which is our transition program from students coming from Zephyr. So historically, that's been for 7th graders. We would incorporate 6th graders into that. And they basically have time with a couple of our staff members where they get to know the school during the first week. They usually come a day early. They have some social time, some team building. They tour the school. And then throughout the year, they'll get together with those teachers. And they also have some sophomore students that are role models that will mentor younger students to kind of make them feel comfortable on the campus. So the steps we took to gather input, we did an initial survey in late April. I've shared it with our Lake Schools Advisory Committee as well as the staff at both schools. I've had numerous informal conversations with parents, especially of 5th grade students who would be directly impacted by this move. We additionally opened up a survey, a second survey that was K through 6, so all parents. And basically what we found, if you look at the next couple of pages, is that the majority of our 5th grade parents were in favor. It shows on here that some of them had some concerns, but that was the minority of parents. And a lot of those concerns in talking about the proposal, parents asked, why are you doing this? And I thought that was a fair question. One of the reasons why is that we're experiencing a lot more growth at Zephyr Cove Elementary. Because of an additional pre-K program and more students coming in at the lower grades, especially kindergarten, 1st grade, we feel that spreading that growth across both schools is actually a great way to balance it. And the additional about 40 students that we've had at Zephyr, a lot of those students are going to roll up as our 6th graders go up this year. And we feel like balancing it out with having pre-K 5 at Zephyr and 6-12 at Whitell would be a good way to balance the growth moving forward. Just looking at these results here, this is 5th grade only. So my initial survey was only 5th grade parents. And it does seem a little bit even if you look at the, it's red and blue are about even. But if you look at the others, we actually had parents that said, hey, we trust you guys, whatever you think is best, please move ahead if you think this is what's best for the kids. So really it came out to about 60-40. And of the 4 families that voted no, I actually spoke directly with 2 of those families. And after explaining the proposal, they said, you know what, I think that's a good idea. Go ahead if that's what you guys want to do. We trust you to move the kids. I had a couple prospective parents that have kids in other schools that are looking at enrolling them at Zephyr, and I explained it to them, and they actually expressed a desire to see that happen as well. Sorry, there's a webinar notice in front of me here, so I can't see the graphs on my laptop. That's why I'm looking up there. Again, a couple of the concerns we anticipated, and that's why we wrote the survey question this way, was the different start time. They do start at 7:25. And there were a few families that were concerned about that, but for the most part, the answer was no. And I think there was a few concerns from parents because, as you guys know, sometimes the lake parents can be a little bit sensitive about issues when you talk about major change up at the lake. So some of them were just asking the why question. Why are you guys doing this? This feels kind of rushed. There's a lot of change going on, but ultimately we felt like the majority of them were in favor of the move. Not too many concerns about the daily schedule. And I think a lot of our families that have kids at both schools are welcoming the fact that all their kids might be on the same 4-day schedule, or they have that 3-day weekend most weekends. Obviously, some families are still going to be split where they have younger kids at Zephyr on a 5-day, older kids at Whittle on a 4-day. This here was our Kasich survey. And what you see here is we had a lot of 4th grade parents respond in the other category. We had 50% say yes, and then we had quite a few 4th grade parents who said, once this impacts my student, I would be in favor of it. So if you add those together, it's close to an 80-20 split, or 79-21, which I would say, based on survey data I've seen in the last couple of years and talking to some other leaders, if you get 75 to 80% of people in favor of something, that's usually a pretty good number. It's hard to get much higher than that. So that shows the K6. So my recommendation, based on conversations with families, especially the ones that voted no, and then I talked to them and they felt like it was something they would approve of, is that we should make the move. I believe we have at least 80% of our families on board with it. And I believe that there's minimal negative impact if we make this move up to Whittle. We do have a room, we have the staff. The 6th grade teacher is on board and would be willing to make that move. I think she might be here tonight. And also is willing to teach a middle school elective during our elective wheel. So that will also contribute to our 7th and 8th grade students as well. So any questions for me?
How many students are we talking about for this next year? Or would it be this next year?
Right, good question. If you were to approve this today, we have 38 students in 6th grade that are going to be automatically moving up in 7th grade. And those kids will actually be split into 2 different classes. We have leveled math. So that large group of our current 6th graders is going to be split. The 5th graders currently, they're 17. We actually do not have any students that are documented as special needs in that current 5th grade class. I do have a couple students that we've been working directly with through our MTSS system that are below grade level, but it's a group of 17 kids that would move up to be the first group of 6th graders at Whittle.
I'm sorry, I missed something. There was how many 6th graders?
Currently, 6th graders that are already slated to move into 7th, we have 38.
Okay.
So that's a large group of kids that'll be moving up.
Okay.
And right now, Whittle's sitting at about 120, which is smaller than it's been. We're looking at closer to 180-ish for next year with current enrollments and this group of almost 40. And then the current 5th graders, there's 17 that would be moving up as the first 6th grade class.
I was just going to ask, I know Miss Amy's not shy. Could we hear from you and your perspective on this? Would that be okay? I'm not putting you on the spot, am I? Okay. Thank you.
I'm happy to talk about moving up.
All right.
Mr. Lehr did a great job presenting all the reasons, and I appreciate he met with me in the very beginning of this to get my input, and I'm absolutely positive about going up. I think it's a great idea. All the supports that Mr. Lehr mentioned, I'm looking forward to my students having, and since 6th grade did move in the valley to middle school, it does feel like, it's lovely at the elementary, but there's a lot of middle school experiences that our kids aren't quite getting. They can participate in Whittle sports, but they're not at the school. And so I just feel like overall for 6th graders to feel like they're part of the middle school, hearing about the announcements of sports, going to assemblies, having support with the dean, along with Mr. Lehr for behavioral issues, electives, all those things that make a 6th grader feel like they're the middle schooler that they are. I think it's a great great idea. So I'm in favor and hoping that you guys will support this.
I'm sorry, it's still Hope, is it?
Yes, Dr.
Okay,
Hope.
I was afraid to say it. This is Miss Amy Hope. She's a sixth grade teacher up at Whittel. Right. Yes.
I have another question. I mean, I think it sounds like a great idea to me. All the positives seem good. This other survey that we got, it shows a lot of the younger kids' parents seem to be not supportive. Is that they're just concerned about the school size of DCS getting too small, or what's the reason for that, do you think?
So I think a lot of it, Doug, is it's hard to project what your kid's like as a fifth grader. And so it's hard to say that, that their opinion may change when their student is actually in fifth grade and they see where they are developmentally. The other thing so I think that's part of that. I think that one of the greatest concerns that I shared with you of those no's was the access to the high school. I think Sean has done a great job tonight talking about the school within the school. They've really thought that out, and they will really be limiting that access. I think that was the primary concern a lot of these parents had is, I don't want my sixth grader with a 12th grader. I can speak to that as a middle school principal. When I was at Powell and we had 7th, 8th, and 9th. And parents always had that concern of, you have high schoolers in that building. What we always found is the 9th graders didn't want to be with the 7th graders anymore. And we'll find the same with the high school. Like, they're not going to want to be around 6th graders. But with that being said, our transportation is already at the lake. Elementary and high schools, students are riding the same buses. There's interaction already going on. So that wouldn't be some first time that they've ever done that. So I think that's part of it, is just, and that's why I kind of wanted to really highlight that when you look at the 4th and 5th grade parents, where they know what their kids are like. The majority of them are in favor of this proposal. And not that discounts any of the other input, but I think it's important for you to consider.
Are there any other questions?
Comment. Certainly is a big change, and I understand that. And if I were a parent, going to the 4-day week, and certainly concerns of integrating with the high school atmosphere would be my concerns. I think this is well thought out. I think you've addressed about every concern I'd have as a parent. 4-day week may be of concern to some parents. Those are my comments.
Did you want to say? I have something I'd like to ask. I thought it was very well thought out as well. I liked all the safety nets you put in, and I like the reasoning for it. I agree that the 6th graders should be with the 7th and 8th graders. They are down in the valley. My only question is this: the kids that will be moving up, do we have a kids program for you know what I mean? Like, I know down here we have adventure camp after school, and they have it when the day's off. So is there a safety net up there, or a support system for families who maybe don't have an older sibling and have this 6th grader who's maybe 11 or 12 that they're not comfortable leaving at home? And what kind of strain would that put on them? And what do we have a fix for it?
That's a great question. We have Kids Club down at Zephyr, so there's that safety net for the elementary. We don't have anything currently in place. We have had in the past, pre-COVID, a late bus and tutoring that was offered after school at least a few days a week. So that's something we could consider doing. I know we have stipends available that we could use for some extracurricular. So possibly our middle school teachers would be willing to host something after school for those students. And that's another option. I'm not sure if we have the resources at Kale to do multiple kids club, but I believe we also could still offer that for 6th grade students, and we might be able to just bus them down the hill.
And I'm also wondering for the whole day on Friday, not just after school, but that
gotcha.
They go to school Monday through Thursday. Parents work Monday through Friday. Right. Even if it's just 1 or 2 kids, that is a big hardship on a family. We're asking them to leave their 11-year-old home by themselves. And I don't know, that's my only concern with all of this.
Sure, it's a good question.
Is if we could find something or some support that's at Kale for the day, or some type of a kids program, or I don't know. I mean, I know you can't control everything in everybody's life, but that would be a big concern for me.
Were there any parents that specifically mentioned the 4-day thing being a hardship for them?
I'm trying to remember on the survey data. I don't believe anybody put that specifically under the other responses. I can imagine there might be a few families that could be a challenge for. So I hear what you're saying. I don't recall anybody specifically mentioning that in the surveys.
That's the only drawback I see is if there's a family that doesn't have a way to take care of their kid on Friday. Otherwise, I'm in favor of it.
And just to Sean's point, like 22% of them said that was their concern, the 4-day week. They didn't, like Sean said, they didn't select other to further explain that, like they didn't have daycare. You could make maybe some assumptions in that there was at least six of them of those 28 that said that was one of their concerns. Yeah. But I think that, again, hopefully when there's a community need, the community would step up and Kale would step up and be able to offer a program for that, for those kids.
Okay, thank you. So this was for discussion and possible action. We've discussed, I don't know if we want to take action on it. Somebody does, we call for a motion.
I would like to call for a motion to move the 6th grade from Zephyr Cove Elementary to George Whittle High School. That would be starting in fall, yes? That would be our recommendation.
Okay, a motion was made. I would need a second to bring it forward.
I'll go ahead and second it because Mr. Engelkirk lives up there. He probably has a better pulse on what's going on than any of us.
Okay, a second was made. I'm calling for, at this time, public comment. Okay, we have someone in the audience. Ms. Rami Cronin-Mack. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Rami Cronin-Mack, Executive Director of Education Services, Douglas County School District, for the record. I just want to say that I am in favor of this. We are a system, and having the similarity of our middle schools in the valley being 6-8 to that in the lake as being 6-8 will really help us in terms of providing services for students, making sure instructional materials are aligned. It's just been challenging for the last several years since we moved the 6th graders from the elementary schools in the valley compared to the quality of the services and the different things we've had to do. Amy, in that entire time that I've worked with Dr. Hope, she has been the 6th grade teacher at Zephyr Cove. And oftentimes she and I are having to sort of noodle through, like, how do we do the same sort of structures or materials or implementations with our 6th graders at Zephyr Cove as we have in the valley. And so I see there being a real positive perspective from a district-wide implementation of a similar middle school concept. So I am in support of that.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Maybe, John, do we want to explain how to do public comment just in, excuse me. That was bad timing. Sorry. If anyone wants to provide public comment, just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Still no one?
Anyone online, I should say, push the raise your hand button.
No? Okay. All right. Public comments closed. We'll go ahead and bring it to a vote. All those in favor of approving this motion, say aye.
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 Heather?
I said aye. Yep.
Thank you. And I will also say an aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lair. I appreciate your attention to this in your presentation.
All right, we'll move on to item number 12. And this is actually, that's the grading committee, excuse me. What we're looking for is 3 people that would like to be on this grading committee. Looking for 3 board members. to be part of this committee. I,
I'll be part of it.
okay. Okay, trustee Engelkirk would like to be on it, and I think trustee Lehman has expressed an interest too.
So President Gilkerson, I did reach out to trustee Lehman, knowing he would not be here during this portion of the meeting. And he did express interest in serving on the committee as well.
Okay, and I do believe, Heather, are you still on?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, did you want to be on this? Did you express an interest for this too?
Yes, I would if if there's a spot for me, yes.
Okay, there we go. We've got our three. Thank you, Heather. And so, pardon me? So the three will be on this committee will be trustee Engelkirk, trustee Jackson, and trustee Lehman. Thank you. Next, we're going to bring up Miss Rami Cronin-Mack again to talk about the math adoption. Oh, and Dr. Hope as well. And maybe Miss Carly Strauss. Trifecta.
Thank you, President Gilkerson. So I'm pleased to introduce to you Dr. Amy Hope, our sixth grade teacher, as you know, from Zephyr Cove Elementary School, as well as Carly Strauss, who's our professional learning specialist at our Professional Development Center here for Douglas County School District. Her specialty area is mathematics, actually middle school mathematics. The reason that we're bringing forward this instructional materials adoption to you today is that our previous material contract expires at the end of this school year, actually is end of June. So we were in need of acquiring new middle school mathematics materials. Since I've come forward to you, since the last adoption that I've brought forward, the Department of Education has determined there's a new process for adopting instructional materials. In the new process, they do a statewide review of materials and create a list. And then we're allowed to select from that list of materials. As it so happens, mathematics were the pilot material. 6-8 mathematics was the pilot that they did to try this new process out. And so there is a list. It's a very limited list of materials that we were allowed to select from in this new process. So what happens is they make a list that is approved, then we run our process in the district, and then we take that material that is selected forward to all of you to make the final decision about the adoption. We felt like we had a decent list in that several of the materials were very closely aligned to the standards. That has been one of the criticisms of our previous material. The previous mathematics materials we had for grades 6 through 8 were adopted shortly after Nevada adopted the Common Core state standards in mathematics, and there weren't very many materials that were aligned, but at that time we had a real dearth of materials available for middle school math, so we needed to do an adoption, so we had something. And so we did have those materials in place for 7 years. This committee then met lots of times. We were hoping we'd have this forward to you in May, and we just felt we weren't ready yet. So they spent a lot of time really thoroughly looking at the materials that we did review. They have brought forward today Ready Math, which you may have heard some of our schools use a program to provide intervention for students that's called iReady. And so it's a similar product, but this is their actual curricular materials for teaching mathematics to every student. It's not a separate intervention program. It would be our intent to contract, should you make this decision this evening, to contract with Ready Math through the 23-24 school year, because in 2022-23, the state will then review K-12 mathematics materials, and they will create a list in that school year, and we would run a following adoption the next year in hopes of having a K-12 mathematics material. That would be our hope. It's been a challenge that the materials are not exactly the same from K through 12, and there are plenty of materials out there now that are high quality instructional materials in mathematics that would be aligned K-12. And so we feel that we would be really ready to do a full K-12 adoption in the 23-24 school year. So I'm simply asking you to approve these materials to serve until we're able to do a full K-12 mathematics adoption in the year 23-24. And of course, Dr. Hope is sitting here with me in case you have questions, or I don't know, did you have something specific you wanted to say?
No,
Okay.
I'm happy. I was on the committee with Rami and with Carly, and I'm just here speaking as a teacher. If you had any questions for me about why, can I share a few reasons why I really was in support of this? Okay.
Of course.
So all the programs, like as Rami was sharing, it was nice to have everything we were looking at was already had made it through the filter of the state, knowing that they were based on the Common Core standards with rigorous problem solving, lots of models. And so that was nice. All of the programs had some really great qualities. What set Common Core ready, the program we're asking you to adopt, apart from the other ones for me and some of the other teachers on the committee, it was highly visual. And I think this is so important for kids of all ages to have very visual math. So there were models of all types that were in color for students to be able to access the math in that way. Also loved that it was didn't have too many problems on a page. It wasn't too busy. Everything that the teacher and the students would be looking at was very accessible for kids. It would be for teachers of all experience, for parents trying to help their child with math. There were directions that were very understandable. It wasn't a paragraph of what you might need to do with the math. It was very clear about that. There was a really great visual glossary, and all the aspects of a rigorous math program were there. So we thought it was the best. Those of us on the committee that we kind of did our ranking and our voting, but we thought it was, the top in that way, thinking about all of the players that would be using this. It's the kids, most importantly, and their teacher, but also families. We want our families to be able to access it and support it. So we really loved that program.
I just have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
My comment is, you guys formed a committee, you did all the work on this thing. You're the experts, I'm not. If you tell me that this is the best for what we can do for our kids in Douglas County, then you have my vote. So I'm just telling you where I stand.
Any other questions or comments? Let me go to Heather. Heather, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just had one question. Is this like published book material? Is this online? Does it have components of both? Because I think iReady is all online. Is this all online also? I'm just kind of curious of what we're looking at.
Thank you. That's one of the reasons I tried to draw that distinction. Trustee Jackson, it is actually a material that would offer both. And that's one of the things that many of the stakeholders felt was beneficial, including the parent who sat on our committee, that there's actually a physical book in addition to digital resources, which allows us to do some of the work that we're doing to become more modern. So it allows really both sides, which is really useful to teachers, parents, and students.
Perfect. Thank you. That was exactly what I was looking for.
That was also my question. But I do have another comment or question. This program, you're rolling it out with 6th through 8th, and then next year, or the 2020, 22, 23, this same program, you want to introduce it to K through 12?
No.
No.
What I'm saying is that in 22-23, the Department of Education will lead a statewide adoption or a statewide review. Pardon my use of language there. They'll run a statewide review of instructional materials, and then based on that statewide review, there will be different stakeholders involved in that process of the review. They always invite Douglas to participate in that. We'll have probably staff that will do that. And then they'll, from that review, create a list of K-12 materials that are then considered to be approved by the State Department of Education. It'll go to the state board for that final approval, and then they'll send that list out to us. So we don't expect to see that until the end of the 22-23 school year, which means the following school year in 23-24, it would be necessary for us to do a full K-12 adoption in mathematics. And we would then be set to do that because we would have a list of materials to select from. This material may be on it, it may not. We don't know that until that list is complete.
We use it for 3 years.
Yeah, so we would contract for the 3 years until we have an updated list.
What are we currently using right now?
We're
Are we using
currently-
Eureka? Is that still?
Eureka is a K-5 mathematics
elementary?
program.
Okay.
We're currently using Glencoe Mathematics. It's no longer available to us. Our contract expires. They're no longer publishing the materials. They do support digitally, but we'd have to recontract and renegotiate. And that seems sort of silly when it has become apparent that there is a preference for hard material, a textbook material.
And then another question or comment is, it seems like we are constantly, not constantly, that's too strong a word, but we do change every 3 years.
Typically, we were on a 7-year cycle. So prior to the change in how the Department of Ed has allowed instructional materials to be approved, we used to have a statewide contract that was negotiated by the districts for a 7-year length of time. And then that contract price was good for all districts in the state. The current, or at least Attorney General previously, in the last, I think this change has been coming now for 3 years, but 3 years ago, the Attorney General advised the Department of Education that they didn't believe that that was a good practice. And so they eliminated that practice and came up with this new procedure. And so now we go out and we actually negotiate the contracts as individual districts. It actually hurts us a little bit, obviously, because then we can't ride the coattails of Clark County, who has the power to negotiate a lower contract because of their numbers. But that's why that change came about, because the advice was given by the Attorney General 3 years ago that they felt like that state contract was not something they could support.
And when we come out with the new materials, I just remembered the Eureka math, which I liked, but I know some people really struggled getting into the flow of it. And so I feel like sometimes there's some learning possibly lost at that time. People struggle, teachers will struggle with it. It's not all, but some. And I'm just wondering, when we change programs like that, what's the learning curve for teachers? Is
Sorry, Linda.
Oh, go ahead.
That was one of the reasons we liked this program so much. It seemed like the learning trajectory was going to be really short on this for staff, for students, for parents. It's like, here it is, easy to understand for all the stakeholders right away. We felt like with minimal training, there'll be, I'm sure, some training for our teachers, but with minimal training, they're going to be able to hit the ground running. I don't see it's going to happen like that with this Common Core ready.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Doug?
Hi. Being new to the board and being in construction, not in the school industry, I hear Common Core. Is that pretty much all the curriculum is Common Core?
In Nevada, the Nevada State Board of Education has adopted the Common Core in mathematics and English language arts. So the Nevada academic content standards are based on the Common Core in those two content areas. Mathematics is currently, I think, being worked on and will be coming forward to the state. They have an actual separate council that approves standards. My understanding is that the intent is to make some minor revisions with regards to the number of standards, which we would be advocating for sure, because the number is quite a few. But so we're expecting those, but I don't have any knowledge of when those will be rolled out. But you are correct.
Okay, I just over the years, I've heard comments about the math and Common Core having all these extra steps and everything. And I mean, I assume that's the case. Is that, I mean, I'm like Trustee Chichester, I'll support you guys in your decisions. I'm just curious if is that what you're stuck with? And this is the best you can do? Or, I mean, when we go to the K through 12 thing, is there going to be a chance to, maybe make something, I don't know, maybe the Common Core is what you guys think is best. I don't know.
Well, the Common Core state standards in mathematics are pretty rigorous. We've spent a lot of time really working with teachers. I think the biggest transition was that the rigor, that it became a lot more not just about fluency or being able to, articulate that some basic facts, but being able to really do problem solving and processing and talking about mathematics. And some of those were big changes for teachers, especially at the elementary level where teachers aren't mathematics. A lot of them don't go into elementary school to teach because they love mathematics. A lot of them go in because they really like reading and writing, right? And so they're not as confident in mathematics. And so that transition, when we went there in 2012, 13, we spent a lot of time working with teachers. Carly spent a lot of time working with teachers and helping them really get into those standards, understand what they were asking, and helping to teach them what those standards meant. But I think right now our teachers have really stepped up to the plate on the rigor of the standards. When you look at our performance statewide compared to other districts in the state of Nevada, we perform so much higher. Even though math scores are always something that we're looking to get better, we still perform a lot higher than others. And I think it's because our teachers have done such a great job of really tackling these standards.
Just one little note on that. I'm Carly Strauss, professional learning math. And one note on our standards currently, when they were adopted in 2010, it was a big shift. But the design behind them was to more align what the world of work calls for in mathematics. Like if you're a mathematician, you're an engineer, you're using mathematics in your day job, trying to make school mathematics look more like that, and less memorized formula, but really engaging in practices that mathematicians would use. So that was kind of the beginning of that. This material, and I'll be really honest, I told the committee this too. I went in ready to hate it because I'm passionate about really great math instruction for children. And it is that material that has those of doing math, because the way that mathematicians do math in the world, right? Applying critical thinking, reasoning, error analysis, those kinds of things, really looking at mathematics as a more broad than just a bunch of problems that you find one correct answer to.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I have a couple.
Oh, I'm sorry.
questions.
Thank you. Trustee Kangas.
And this may be redundant, and I think you probably answered them, but I'm going to ask them anyway. And one of my questions I had noted is this an improved way of teaching middle school math? And I think that became very clear in your presentation. The other question I had was, is there any major changes in the curriculum changing over? It sounds like that may have been answered by hitting the ground running. And then the third one I have is about kids in the middle of this. If you have a ninth grader that's going to start getting this curriculum, and they've had the other curriculum for 2 years, is that going to be a problem at all, or that'll be a catch up right away thing, or?
A couple of things. Let me go back.
Grade, yeah. Excuse me.
Question,
I'm in 8th grade.
I don't know. I think the big difference, the current material that we have was not completely aligned to the standards, especially at 6th grade. And then 7th grade was pretty out of alignment as well. The beauty of time, right, is that textbook publishers had to actually start publishing really quality materials. And that's what we have here. So there's no disparity between what you're teaching in your classroom and then how kids are assessed, let's say on the SBAC, a standards aligned assessment. So that was one of the things that became really apparent to the committee. It was like, oh my gosh, a standards aligned material is beautiful, right? Like that looks really, that's really great. Math, the standards are a continuum from kindergarten all the way through high school. And there's nothing in this that would be weird or strange that would throw that alignment off for kids. They will continue to do math because our standards are the same. And if anything, this will be better for our students as our elementary program, while it's a different program, is standards aligned. And then if you're bringing that into the 6-8, which is typically where our test scores drop, I think there'll be benefit for our students in that when they're using the same models they took from elementary. That's one of the things that's missing from our current, is a lot of the modeling, the representing that, like what could you draw or explain that? And so I think we'll see almost a more fluid, better continuum for our students as they go on then on to high school mathematics, which becomes a lot more math, you know what I mean? So
Thank you. I'm an advocate for what's being presented here, and I just wanted to make sure that these changes don't affect any child adversely whatsoever. And I did mean to say 6th through 8th. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
Well, can I just add one little bit?
Sure,
and I think
sure.
that's the desire with this 3-year. It seems kind of weird, but I think I've been now in this job long enough to have sat on a K-5 to 6-8 and high school adoption. And every single time it comes up, like, what if we had the same thing? So I think that here, like, this is a piece to the puzzle, and then hopefully we'll be able to really look at the big picture for all of our students in a few years. So that timeline, I think, is important here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're ready for someone to make a motion.
I move to adopt Ready Math, public play curriculum associates as the primary instructional material for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade mathematics and DCSD for 3 years.
I need a
I'll
second.
second that.
Okay, motion made by trustee Chichester, seconded by trustee Magnata. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much, ladies, all of you. Appreciate your time. Okay. So we have 2 minutes before public comment. I think we will wait. We'll take a 2-minute break. We'll wait for public comment or starting something else. I will. I want to say goodbye. Okay.
I didn't try to bring it up, but it did feel low, so hopefully it works.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read public comment and then you can give the directions. Thanks, Sean. Thanks a bunch. Good job. Good presentation too. That was great. All righty, we're going to go ahead. Public comment is at 5:30, just 1 minute. So to let you know that comments from the public are invited at this time on topics that are not specifically addressed elsewhere in the agenda. If there's anyone here to speak for public comment, I don't know that we have a sign-in sheet. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Frazier. And you can sign up if you wish to address the board and your desire to speak and the topic which you will speak. Individuals wishing to address the board this time, you will be limited to 3 minutes. The board is precluded from acting on items raised, thank you, from items raised during public comment that are not already on the agenda. So we just want to let you know that when you come up to do public comment, we're not allowed to comment back if you ask us a question. We're not trying to be rude. It's very difficult for us not to engage, but we just want you to know that's the way public comment works. Okay, and then Mr. Enter has some comments
I
about.
have some additional instruction for anybody online. If you're using a computer, you have a raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a telephone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Enter. It is now time for public comment. I'm going to go ahead and call Rebecca, is it Vasquez Yes, Miss Rebecca, would you please come up? You will need to state your name for the record. Thank you.
It's Rebecca Vasquez.
Okay, go ahead, Rebecca. And you're doing.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rebecca. Trustee Chichester has the timer, so he'll let you know when you're getting, well, you can explain it. Tell me what you're doing.
I have 3 minutes, and at 2.5 minutes, I'll raise this yellow card. At 3 minutes, I'll raise the red card, and we'll ask you to conclude your comments at 3 minutes.
All righty? All right, thank you. Go ahead, honey.
I'm here to understand what the policy or what the law is when it comes to a police officer speaking to a 9-year-old child in 4th grade without the mother or parents' consent. My son was sent to the office for an incident. He was there for 2 hours and I didn't get a phone call until 1:20 and he was there at 11 a.m. While I was not there because I had no idea that there was an issue with my son, he was there for 2 hours and an officer spoke to my son, apprehended him. They were alone and told him threatening words that he would get arrested if he was caught doing what he was accused of doing without my consent. Again, I want to know the policy. I want to know what authority Principal Susan McNeil has with allowing my son to be disciplined without my knowledge. I want to know why she felt it was okay to take it out of my hands due to this current political environment that we're in. My son is a Native American Black child, and I don't understand why a police officer is speaking to him without my knowledge or consent. When I went to pick up my son 2 hours later, Principal Susan McNeil disclosed to me that she had an officer speak to my son. I told her it wasn't right. She apologized that I felt that way. This is not a feeling. This is between right and wrong. There was no apology. She had no remorse for the decision that she did to hurt my child and make him feel unsafe. When it comes to going to school, and when it comes to that particular situation, it shouldn't have been handled in that way. A counselor should have been called. A counselor should have been called. His mother should have been called. I feel like it wasn't handled in a loving, protective way. And I think it was a misuse of power. Joe Gardner and Keith Lewis, I left a message for you on the day of the incident. Haven't received a phone call back from you. Joe, I went the next day to voice my complaint to you. You were nice enough to hear me, but still haven't heard anything back on the subject. I did get an email from the principal the following day, and she told me that she was opening a case against my son for bullying. Well, my son's been bullying for many, many weeks, and he brought that to my attention. And he actually told his teacher. She had no recollection that my son actually was verbally assaulted by the child, also hit in the arm. He came home with a bruise 2 weeks before the incident. So if there's a case of bullying, I just want to get answers. I want to know why that was against my son.
We're at 3 minutes, and we will refer this over to the superintendent and the Human Resources Director.
And my son is the victim. He's getting, in her own words, she called him the aggressor, and I don't appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I don't have anyone else on this list. Is there anyone else here to speak? Okay. Anyone online? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close public comment. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Next, we'll move on to item 16 and I'm sorry, number 14. Jeez. Sorry. Number 14, John enters here to talk about a contract approval for wireless upgrade. It's for discussion and possible action.
Okay, back earlier this year, we went out to bid for a wireless and LAN upgrade project through the E-rate program to get funding through E-rate. We selected IP Solutions as the lowest bidder, and due to COVID and the actual bidding took place in early March, and we didn't receive notification from E-rate until about June. Over the summer, we decided, or actually in the fall, we decided to scale back the project a little bit because of everything else going on with COVID and trying to get the schools open. So the original proposal was scaled back to just the wireless portion of that. And the total cost of that project is $209,745.10, of which $146,821 will be funded through E-rate, and the other $62,925 will be funded through the capital improvement project. We have until September 30th to complete that, and we feel confident that we can do that over the summer if we get started right away. Any questions? Yes, sir.
This is for the install and getting the system up to go. Is there then, like at home, I have a regular monthly fee? Is that, I'm just curious how this all works, like with the internet provider.
Basically what we're doing is in our schools, we cover about every third classroom with what's called a wireless access point. We're seeing some significant increase in the number of devices connected. So we're moving towards one device in every classroom, one wireless access point in every classroom for connectivity. Monthly cost, it's not changing. It's more of a capital improvement project, not like a monthly service. No, it's physical hardware.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Ender, I see we got two bids. Is it tough to get bids? Have we worked with this company before?
Yes, we have worked with this company before. And one of the things that we did, E-rate's really critical about how you bid and what you bid. They have very specific rules that are probably a lot more stringent than most of what our regular rules are in the state. But we were doing an upgrade to our existing infrastructure. So we went out to bid for, we use Extreme Wireless. That's the manufacturer, is Extreme Networking. So we went out to bid for Extreme gear. There's not a lot of, what I want to say, vendors that handle the Extreme gear. So we didn't want to do a complete replacement of all of our systems because that would have been approaching $1 million. I don't have that kind of funding. So we were just looking to increase the capacity of our current system, and that's how this bid came about.
It looks pretty obvious the other vendor didn't want the work.
Yeah, and with E-rate, they get these things and they just throw a number out there, and yeah, so.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, then we'll go ahead and someone could make a motion, or if someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to recommend that the board award the bid for the district-wide wireless LAN upgrade project to IP Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $62,923.53 as recommended by Information Technology Director John Enter.
Thank you. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Trustee Magnata. Motion was made and seconded. Is there any public comment on this issue?
I'm seeing none.
Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. I believe you're up for the next one too.
2 more.
For a few, okay. So we'll move on to motion pass 6-0. So we're going to move on to item 16. And Mr. Lehman was going to join us. I don't know if he's on there or not. Do you see him?
I have not seen Mr. Lehman join into the meeting yet.
He said he was
I
going to
know
try to
he
get
did
on for item
receive
16.
An invite.
All right, well, we'll go ahead. Item 16, adding audio and video recordings of board meetings to district websites. This is for discussion and possible action. Mr. Enter?
So this came about, Trustee Lehman mentioned that he wanted to publish video recordings of the meeting. Currently, we do not publish video recordings or audio recordings. We do publish minutes of the meeting per NRS. There's a lot that goes into producing the video recording. It really, it depends on what the board wants. You know, I had a lot of questions when this first was around things like what kind of video do you really are you expecting to be able to for the public to see? Are you expecting a video that looks very similar to what's up on the board right now and has video and all the tiles with audio? We can do that. That's not rocket science. It's very doable. If you're looking for more of a video production type environment, like a newscast or something, that's going to require more professional video organization to produce that kind of recording. Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying, but I guess what I'd like to know is, and that's why I seconded it, is the commission live streams their county commission live streams their meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Is that possible to do? How expensive is that? And is it prohibitive for us to do that?
No, and I mean, currently right now we are live streaming this meeting.
Right.
Okay. We can also live stream it via YouTube. We don't live stream these meetings via YouTube because we want people to be able to participate in public comment and things like that. When you live stream to something like YouTube, it's a view only type of scenario.
Okay.
We could certainly live stream what you're seeing right now to YouTube, and that live stream would be there and recorded and available for playback.
I'm not sure we're looking for public comment to come back to us. If people
And-
want to comment,
And
they can come to the
we
meeting.
can still do the Zoom webinar type of meeting like we're doing right now, and then take that recording and put it up and make it available via YouTube. That's what I was going to recommend. If we did it, it would be put up onto our YouTube channel, which the district already has, and then the public could click on the meeting and view it, and they could view it at any time.
I don't think the plan was, or my intention was, for them to be able to view it whenever they wanted to. I just thought it would be something that if they knew we're having a meeting and they wanted to see it, they could check in and see the meeting.
And they can do that right now via Zoom
And
via
does
the
it
Zoom
cost money to use Zoom?
webinar. I mean, we have people that are logged in right now.
Does it cost money to use Zoom?
It costs money. It cost about, our Zoom license was about $1,500 a year. But my recommendation is that we keep doing that for these meetings. Having the webinar component of Zoom. There's Zoom meetings and then there's Zoom webinars. A Zoom meeting is much more, lends itself much more to a standard meeting. A Zoom webinar lends itself to what we're doing today, where you have a group of panelists they're the only ones that are enabled to talk. But then your attendees at the webinar, we can enable them to talk during public comment And that's what we do right
Then I
now.
think we're doing already what I was.
Exactly.
What I was considering. I mean, I don't,
Right now, if somebody goes to our website, clicks the agenda, clicks the link, they can join this
Right.
meeting and watch it live.
Question. But I think that maybe the thing is can somebody later on come back and watch this meeting?
Currently, no.
What would it take-
That's
what would it take for
where
that?
I think Trustee Lehman was asking his questions was around actually publishing the recording of the meeting.
Are people, or can we listen to the meetings now if we want to that are recorded?
We are recording this meeting right now.
Right. So if I wanted to go
Currently-
back and listen to it, I could.
Currently, when the meeting is complete, I get a copy of the recording and I give it to Karen for,
Okay.
right.
And is that through NRS that we do that? And that's all that we're required to do?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And you're required to produce minutes of the meeting.
Right.
Minutes of the meeting can also be, I was looking at NRS and hopefully you can pipe in here, but minutes, it says, it defines minutes and audio recordings. Audio recordings can actually replace the minutes of a meeting, but you would have to make those audio recordings public.
Thank you. Rob's on. So Rob, why don't you go ahead? You have your hand raised. Would you like to speak? Thank you.
Yeah, my intention here was to publish the meetings. Our minutes do a good job of explaining a very high level of what takes place, but you don't often get the full conversation. You don't get context. You don't get minutia. There have been several times, at least since I've been a trustee, that I wanted to go back and hear a conversation, hear what was actually said, hear the exact wording. And you can't do that without emailing Karen. And she does a great job of getting us the recordings. But what if the public wants to do that? What if we want to do that over the weekend? I mean, it seems like most public bodies, most public boards are putting their recordings online nowadays. It's a transparency thing. It used to be hard to do. I mean, with bandwidth and everything else, but it's easy now. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have a link on our past board meetings with at least the audio. We may not need the video, but at least the audio.
Okay. I have a question.
Go ahead. Gary.
So what additional cost would that be to take the step that Rob was just explaining?
There's a couple of questions that come into play. Number one is, does the board desire to have certain parts of the meeting edited out of the recording, like a break or starting a meeting 5 minutes early before you actually call the meeting to order? If you're going to publish these, I have a couple of recommendations about things that we need to change at the meetings. Number one would be the start time of the meeting needs to be at least 5 minutes earlier, just to make sure everything's functional and working. I don't know if you saw me today when we started this meeting, I had to start the projector because it went to sleep while they were doing the retirement. I had it all set up, but things happen. Editing, that kind of stuff takes staff time. That's one of my concerns, is how I spend a lot of time, and it's very stressful for me to make sure that these meetings come off. I don't know if you know what goes on in the background, but I'm walking on eggshells until this thing gets started, and then we get into a groove. So there are going to be times where the technology may not function for some reason. As you move the meeting from venue to venue, there's a whole nother set of challenges for me to make sure that I got the video working, the audio's correct, and that everything's going to work correctly. I'm doing a best case I can to make it happen.
You did a great job.
There is going to be some more time involved. if I'm not here, I need to have one of my staff do it. There may be overtime involved with the staff. Right now, I've been able to flex out some time, things like that. But you know, that's the other thing is, if Rob, if you're good with just what we're seeing right now and recording this Zoom meeting, that's very easy to do, and there's really no additional cost in that. It's if you're going to start editing, if you want better, you know, if you each want cameras, better cameras, all that kind of thing, then you know, that's where things will change.
Is there any security issues related to streaming?
I would say no, not. There's no real security issues. That's why, again, that's why I really like the Zoom webinars, because of the security component, and we can control very definitively who we want to be able to speak. And if somebody gets belligerent, we can cut them off in a very timely manner. We have a little better control over that.
So are we on a delay system?
We're not delayed. We're not delayed. So it could be, and that's the other thing. If something like that happens, would you want that edited out of the? But then again, is that considered public? That's part of the public meeting, and that's public record. Therefore, but if you end the meeting, or if you take a break, now the meeting has effectively ended. I have to stop the recording, start the recording, put the two together, that kind of thing. So.
Okay. I was going to go to Rob first, then Doug,
Oh,
you'll
I'm
be
sorry.
after. Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
So what I found interesting from John was that the recording can actually take over the minutes. Now that's, if we're talking about staff time, how many hours does Karen do a month putting together our minutes? If all she has to do moving forward is the motion, and that's it, because everything else is in the video, well then that saves a bunch of time. Karen, how much time do you spend a month doing our minutes?
It's actually the audio, I believe, is what I read, that the audio, you must produce either minutes or audio of the meeting. I believe that's what I read, but I would. I believe that one replaces the other, but you have to make them public. Now, I'd refer to legal counsel.
I don't think, I know that the principals and I know staff, I know they look at the minutes when they're published. I'm not so sure they'd listen to them. I think they'd rather have a paper copy that they could scan through. I mean, that's from what I know, talking to people, that they'll call me and say, hey, you know, I read this in the minutes or whatever.
The other, when you talk about cost, the other question then becomes, what about other public meetings that the district conducts? Parent Advisory Committee, Health Advisory Committee, all of those meetings. Now, are you setting a precedent to where you need to then publish those meetings, those video recordings as well?
I have a question for Rob. Rob, I'm sorry, you have your hand up, but let me ask you really quickly, if I may. Are you talking about video, or are you talking just about audio, or both? I'm not real clear on what we're looking at.
I would say a minimum is audio, but we've got the video. We've already got it, so why not?
Doug?
I mean, I just have a suggestion. So we save costs and everything. Couldn't we, you talk about starting 5 minutes early. The first few minutes of the meeting are, you know, approving the previous minutes or the Pledge of Allegiance, things like that. If there's some bugs and that doesn't come on there, that's not something people are going to need to reference back and say, oh, make sure we did the Pledge of Allegiance right. So we start the meeting just like we do. If there's bugs, you can get it ironed out in the first few minutes. If there's a break, you just keep it going. If somebody wants to watch it, they watch it and wait for the meeting. So there's no extra editing time. You have the video, you have the audio, and you just post that. And
the biggest thing about the starting a few minutes early is When we start the meeting, the public can't actually join until I hit the go button. And so when President Gilkerson says, let's start the meeting, I hit go, it takes them about 3 or 4 minutes to start and join into the meeting. So they're not seeing the meeting from the start. And I mean, I would say just start a couple minutes early. We hit go. We know that we're live, and then she calls the meeting to order.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, whatever it takes, but I'm just saying, keep it as simple on your end as possible so that it can be there, so people can see it. You know, as far as other meetings, that'll have to be determined, but if it's a simple process, it doesn't involve, you know, a lot of your time, I can see that. You good with that, Rob?
I'm sorry, we have a comment or question from Carolyn.
I'm just
Where?
looking at NRS 241.035 regarding public meetings, and the requirement to keep minutes of the meetings is a requirement. So the minutes shall be kept and made available to the public. If an audio recording is made, that also must be available to the public, but there's nothing in here that allows you to substitute that out for the written minutes, which must be kept for 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Karen.
Sorry, I must, like I said, I remember seeing the audio part of that.
Is there any other
Apologize.
comments or questions? Rob?
Yeah, I would just say our current county commissioners do this. Carson City School District does this. I
You
think,
say does this, what do you mean? Can you clarify?
yeah, you can go back and watch meetings. Like on the Carson City School
Talking
District.
audio visual.
I just went to their website. They've got YouTube pulled up. Our county commissioners, you can go back and watch it. I think it's also on YouTube. So, you know, to John's question, what kind of product do we want to put on here? Well, maybe look at those websites and just do similar to that. That seems to be working. But I think, I just think it's time that we become a little more transparent in what goes on here, more than our minutes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Superintendent Lewis?
I guess I would make a recommendation just for staff that the regular meetings of the Board of Trustees are what we're talking about. Any subcommittee, you know, now we're talking, taking John and now having to set up the infrastructure that often we don't necessarily have on subcommittees. Obviously, the subcommittee, we keep audio and people can request. So as you consider a motion, I would recommend maybe it's regular board meetings. And you guys can discuss that as you desire.
Thank you.
I would agree with that, because any subcommittee you have to bring the matter before the entire board. So there's absolutely no reason to record those meetings or video record those, because they're going to be discussed at a board meeting, the outcome of the subcommittee.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
I think I would disagree with that. I don't want to add anything more. I don't want to add video. But if we already have audio of those subcommittee meetings, why not make it available? Don't edit it, just throw it up there. Only 3 or 2 of us can go to a subcommittee meeting anyway. Maybe one of us wants a little more context on what's coming back. I see no negative of putting up data that we already have, recordings we already have. Don't make more recordings, don't add work, but whatever we have, make it available. I see no negative to that.
So let me clarify. I guess if the desire of the board is to have video of your meetings, I would ask that it only be regular board meetings. I agree that we have audio. If that's the desire, that any meeting we have, we could post.
Yeah, don't do anything more than what we're doing. Add nothing to what we're doing. Just make what we're doing available.
Okay, thank you. I think.
I have one other comment.
Oh, okay, go ahead, John.
That during a meeting, it will become imperative that everybody uses microphones very religiously, sit close to them, talk into them. Because when you're watching a video and you can just barely hear somebody talking and you don't hear the exact motion or whatever, that the public frowns on that. So it's just, we're going to have to get better at using microphones. Everybody's been doing a great job this meeting, I will say. So I've been over there with my headphones on listening, and I can hear everybody talk. Actually, you can hear much better on the live stream than you can in this room because of the echo that I'm getting. The live stream audio is actually really good. So.
All right, thank you. Rob?
Just to say real quick, while I wasn't able to join on video, I listened to the whole first part of this meeting on my earphones, and it was great. Besides the very first motion that you guys redid, I could hear everything just fine. I heard every discussion just fine. So I think it's good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move forward here. This was for discussion and for possible action. So if it's at the board's pleasure, someone wants to make a motion, we can go ahead and do that. Go ahead, Rob.
I'd like to make a motion that the board make public through its website all recordings that we are currently making of public meetings.
Okay. And when you say recordings, audio and we're doing visual as well, I just wanted to clarify. Visual as well?
Yeah, whatever the recording is that we're making for that meeting, whether it's audio or visual, whatever we're doing already.
Okay, so there's a motion that's been made. Is there anyone that would like to second that motion?
I'll second it. I'll second the motion.
Okay, so a motion's been made by Trustee Lehman, seconded by Trustee Engelkert. I will ask for any public comment on this. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Heather, are you there?
I do not see Heather on there.
Nope, Heather's gone.
I'd like to
Okay.
comment.
I will vote A as well. So we've had 5 to 1 nay with Trustee Kangas voting nay. And you wanted to say something?
I'd like to comment.
Okay.
I don't disagree with transparency. I don't see this function being used very much in this county.
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Thank you, Trustee Kangas. All right, so we'll move on to item number 17. John, it's you again? It's Information Technology Report. This is John's annual report.
Yeah, I promise this is the last one for me. Boy, what a year 2020 and 2021 was. I can't tell you. I think I've worked harder in my career the past 18 months that I ever have in my life. But I did it to make sure that the kids at Douglas County School District were taken care of. But it required that all teachers, staff, admins, everybody be flexible and agile. I can't tell you how many times things changed during this past, ever since March 13th when the shutdown happened. Everybody had to immediately change from in-person to remote. We got really good at using Google Meet, which was really exciting, and that's one of the things. I mean, I'd used video conferencing software and meeting software, frequently. It's really nice to see how well people have gotten into that and being able to use it. So much so that teachers are starting to use it for parent meetings, to be able to accommodate parents at times when they can't just get into the school. Another big use that we're seeing Google Meet is for IEPs. And I've talked to some parents and some teachers that just love the fact that they can do an IEP without actually having to get everybody in the room at the same time. It's allowed that IEP process to become much more flexible. The staff stepped up their game using our current tools, Google Apps, Docs, Sheets, all that kind of thing. They quickly learned how to access those documents remotely, so they could work anywhere. They didn't have to go into the school to get access to that stuff. They had it. Another big piece we implemented, I lost count, but it was at least over 10 different applications that required us to manipulate things like rostering, making sure that this application was distributed to this group of students. We did things like WeVideo, you might have heard of, Loom for video, Nearpod for making lessons more interactive. Classwise, we implemented Classwise, which gives the teachers a little bit more control over their students' Chromebooks. They can actually blank the screen on a student's Chromebook to make sure they're paying attention instead of sitting there playing a game. And then moving forward, staff just continues to adapt to this fast changing landscape. I think the way instruction's delivered now, it will never go back to, quote, the way it was. It will change. It's not going to be completely online like a lot of people think, but the way instruction's been being delivered, it will change over the coming out of the pandemic. 2021 brought on some new challenges for technology staff, mainly with students and parents working remotely. We did a lot of tech support for students and parents. We did, like, they would call us up, I can't get on our, our home Wi-Fi is not working. My network guy would, David, he would get on the phone and help them out. We even had a parent that apparently tried to configure their router such that they would be able to hide, and they created a VPN from their router that went out. They didn't realize where it was terminating, but the VPN, virtual private network, terminated in China, and so that it kind of looked like whatever they were doing, not China, I'm sorry, Russia. It terminated in Russia. Looked like they were working from Russia, so they were just afraid of somebody seeing where they were. The student couldn't access our systems because that connection was coming from Russia. We block all connections outside of the US. We're like, we don't have kids in any country outside the US that needs to have access to our system, so we block all those. Kid couldn't get online. So David troubleshot it down to that point and figured out, and then parent finally undid what he had done, and now the kid could learn. But that was just one of the weird, quirky things that we dealt with these parents and families. Another thing we did, we supplied hotspots to students that did not have internet access. They lacked internet access at home due to one reason or another. The really cool thing was we supplied 56 hotspots to families, 56 different families. When I looked at the overall number, that means that 99% of our families in Douglas County School District have access at home to high-speed broadband internet. That's a phenomenal number. That is something that is not replicated in any other county in Nevada. I mean, I heard horror stories of districts having to get 2, 3, 4, 5,000 hotspots for students because they had so many families without internet. So we were very fortunate here in Douglas County. We slowed our infrastructure changes this year. We were making a lot of changes to the actual instructional components, like applications and things like that. We didn't want to try to implement any new firewalls or filtering and that kind of thing. We didn't want to rock the boat when everybody was so reliant on the technology or on the infrastructure. Another thing since coming back in August, normally we see about 1,000 connections to our wireless network at any one given point in time. This year, that number jumped to 3,000, which that's a threefold increase. Our wireless infrastructure held it and was able to function. And herein lies the reason why we want to get our infrastructure upgraded, is because we're only going to see that number grow. Another thing, this past year, we deployed 7,300 Chromebooks. We only have 5,500 students, 5,400 students. These Chromebooks we gave 4th grade through 12th grade all had a Chromebook to take home and bring back to school every day. Our K through 3rd grade students had a Chromebook in school, and then we also gave them a Chromebook that they took home, that they could keep at home and use at home in the event if we had to shut down a school. We wouldn't have to get all these Chromebooks together for these K3 students. They already had it at home. The neat part about that was many students now are making use of that device at home, doing more of their homework, and the teachers are doing some really creative instruction to help them catch up. Over the summer, we've had requests for probably 1,000 Chromebooks to go back home to these kids over the summer and be able to use them over the summer. We have surplus Chromebooks. We were fortunate of that. And that's what we use for these K3 students. We used our surplus Chromebooks to be able to supply those devices. Again, staff at all levels rose to that challenge and made that happen. In closing, I would like to publicly thank the DCSD librarians, media techs, IT staff, and the kitchen staff for all their work that they did this year at the beginning of the year to ensure that students and staff have access to a functional Chromebook. I'd also like to thank all the staff, teachers, and administrators for making this past year the best environment they could create given the circumstances that we were dealt. The entire staff of our district, their contribution and dedication to the DCSD community exceeds expectations. Without their agility and flexibility, DCSD could not have achieved the success we experienced. Thank you.
John, and thank you for all that you do for our school district too.
It's an honor and it's my pleasure.
It's an honor that you work for us.
Are there any other questions?
Any questions, comments?
John, I can't thank you enough. We are so fortunate to have a IT director who is forward thinking. John's always thought of it before I have. We wouldn't be where we are without you at the helm of our IT department, and I appreciate you greatly, and I know I speak for our entire district, so thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks. All right, at this time, I'm going to, at the beginning of our meeting, we talked about a flexible agenda. I'm going to use that now. I realize you guys have been sitting here all evening, and I'm going to switch some things around so that we can talk about what you came here to talk about. I'm so sorry that we made you wait so long. I just saw that. Anyway, so we're going to go to item 19 and we'll go back to 18. Item 19 is the board policy number 713, animals on district property. It's a discussion and for possible action. And so, yes, we will. Keith, I'll bring it to you to start us off. Thank you.
Right, so this was an agenda item that the board had requested that we bring forward. In a review of board policy 713, which prohibits animals on district property. We are currently operating outside of our own board policy. And so tonight we need to have a discussion on the future or the direction we want to go. At issue is that over the past, I would say 3 years that I've been at that I've been at the dog park. Funny, I should say that I've been at the
Are you on a
district
leash?
office. Sometimes I am. That we have obviously the use of the park behind the district office has been used widely for the dog park. During the same time as COVID has kind of shut us down, we haven't had youth sports in the community. And so we're trying to balance the needs of our community. I know Trustee Lehman can talk to this, but he spoke to Scott Morgan at the rec department, and while that field would not, one of the requirements that the Parks and Rec has for booking a facility as a main practice facility is bathroom accessibility, which is not available at the district office. It has been used in the past for kind of an extra field for teams that are just trying to get extra practices outside those that are assigned. And so tonight, again, I want you to talk about one of our concerns, obviously, is liability as a district with animals off of leashes. I will tell you there have been some incidents where I have personally been chased back up a stair. None of the people out here in the audience today, I think, are the owners of those animals, but we've had other people that is a concern. But on the same aspect of that, I would also tell you that many of the people sitting out here in front of me, I see picking up dog poop from people who are not their dogs to keep the area as clean as possible. And so maybe we could have a win-win solution to this in looking at board policy 713. And going back to the liability, it's really about posting. No matter what we decide to do, we will need to post in that area in terms of use at your own risk, that you are responsible for the behavior and the actions of your animals, and then obviously our expectations. And if we're going to do it as a dual use, there may be something that we want to talk about in terms of its, if a youth sports team is out there, it is not a dog park at that time. I would not want mixed use at the same time. So I'll turn it over to the board for a discussion.
All right. Who would like to start off? Okay, Trustee Engelkirk.
Dog owner, but every dog park I've seen has fencing on all sides, and this one does not. I've been to the district office enough that there's not fencing, so that would certainly help you not getting chased up the stairs. So the possibility I see is also with teams using it, it seems like fencing is good too for just keeping, balls or things in play. Is a possible action is maybe to fence it, and then if we need a bathroom, have a porta potty brought in. These are just things I'm throwing out. I don't know if we have the funds for this or if it's worth doing, but those are just some things I was thinking about.
Thank you. Gary?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know about incurring the cost of fencing. What more concerns me is something like a porta potty and having control over that as far as vandalism or, kids tipping it over and having problems like that. So porta potties are pretty vulnerable items sitting out on the district property.
So let me understand what's going on, okay?
Okay.
School property, correct?
Correct.
It's not a dog park, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So I live in the Johnson Lane area. We have a terrific dog park over at the near the ball field over there off of Stephanie. And they provide bags and there's drinking fountains for the dogs even and so on and so forth. So are we going to designate this as a dog park? And then, of course, we have some liability there and so on and so forth. So it's kind of weird.
Ross?
I'd like to hear from Rob. He brought it up.
Rob, would you like to speak at this time?
Sure. I think, I don't know how long it's been going on. I would say at least 5 years or so. And I share the same concerns as Trustee Engelkirk about fencing. I've been chased. As you guys know, I like to ride an electric scooter to most places that I can go to from my house. If I can do that instead of a car, I usually do. And I've been chased multiple times by dogs there, been nipped at, which, you know, isn't necessarily dangerous, but it's annoying, that's for sure. I know that Superintendent White wondered if, she said that people came through that were just driving through town and used the place as a dog park. Like, so she wondered if it was listed on some website somewhere. I've looked and I haven't seen anything. But I moved to this community 15 years ago, and my kids, when they were young, did have practices on that field. I remember that specifically. They had soccer. The field's small enough that it wouldn't handle a lot of bigger kids stuff. Say, once you get to 10 or 11 years old, fields get bigger than the district field. But for the little kids, and they start pretty young, 3, 4 years old, that field's plenty big to house a couple soccer fields at night. And it used to be used for that. As Superintendent Lewis stated, I talked to this Parks and Rec, as that's my assignment. Scott Morgan said that it would, he said without question, it would get used if it was known that it was available, because coaches are always looking for parks. They're always looking for grass, and it's really, really hard to find. We have a lot of teams. We don't have as much grass as we could use. I will also say I've got I have a dog. In fact, my wife often walks her dog to this park, and I'm not sure she's going to be super pleased with me if I vote against it. In fact, I know she won't be. That being said, it's a school. It's school property, and we should be focusing on letting our property be used by kids. They've been pushed out by this use of a dog park, and I think the kids should. I think the community should know. The Parks and Rec should know that this is available again for teams.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Well, I guess I do have a comment. I walk by there. I don't take my dog into the park, but I do have a dog, and I walk by there pretty much every day or every other day. And I don't take my dog in there because I don't want my dog around other dogs. Number one, it's been used as, I don't think it really is a dog park. It shouldn't be a dog park because it doesn't have the full fencing around it. But on the other hand, people are using it, pay taxes also to the school district for that, and it could be used, I mean, that's their, their recreation or time too. Maybe some educational things happen there with their dogs. I don't know. Maybe they're training their dogs. Some of them are. So I'm torn with it. I really, really am torn. I mean, I think that, public property, yes, it's for school, and it is a school, and I think that the first priority should be any use that the kids have. Traditionally, they don't have the use during the day when they're in school. So, in the mornings, if the people want to bring their dogs there, if they can keep them under control, I think there should be a set of rules that they have to be kept under control. And should they approach a staff member or any member of the public that, your dog, you can't keep your dog under control, then you'll be asked not to use it. That's reasonable.
Trustee Engelkirk?
Just a question, when there's fields that, maybe this is for Rob, when a program like, I don't know, AYSO or whatever, wants to use a field like that, is there a fee involved? Or is that just they sign up and they use it?
It can depend. Sorry, I'm answering this for you. Would you like to?
No, I was going to say, ask Keith.
Okay. It certainly can depend. We have a facility use agreement with Parks and Rec, so anything that they use, we don't collect, but there could be organizations that we would collect from. It's not very frequent, and I think that again, I've only been in my seat one year, and so sometimes I don't know what occurred when I was over in HR. I don't know how many people were actually reserving the field, so to speak, for youth too. I think sometimes it's available and they just showed up there and used it after hours. You know, we're not there on weekends, we're not there at night. So a lot of things happen there when we're not there too.
Okay, I was just wondering if,
Yeah.
if maybe that'd be a source of revenue to pay for a fence or something.
Not substantial. I mean, we would, you know, we could always look for a donor that might be willing to fund such a fence, because I am in agreement with you. That would be a barrier that would assist. And I think the other issue at hand that needs to be addressed and has gotten better, but we are a place of business, and we have people that come to the district office, and sometimes parking has become a hassle, and we've had to post signs due to parking. That it's gotten better, but I still would think that use of the dog park, people need to park off the outside the facility, because we are a place of business during operating hours. Again, what happens at nights and weekends is different. But
Okay, anyone else? And I'd like to go ahead and speak how I feel about this item. I also have a dog, and I've lived in the valley 30 years or so, and I remembered when there was a little playground next door, and I live out in the ranchos, and I remember bringing my kids, because it was so cute, in to play on that playground. I love this small town feel. I love neighbors. I love all of that goes along with our dog parks and our parks and all of that. I like to play nice with people. You know, I love when I pull up and see the dogs there. I've never been chased by one, so maybe I'd feel differently. But I wish there was a way we could come to some type of agreement, and I'm hoping that the people that are here to speak will have some ideas for us, maybe. One of the issues that I feel that has already been brought up is a fence. If it was fenced in, maybe that would solve the problem right there. I don't know how everyone else feels, but for me, that would probably do it for me. If there was a fence and we had the signs and all of that, you know, we could work together on this item. But anyways, that's just what I wanted to say. So we're just discussing, I guess. I don't know. We can make a motion. We don't have to. We can hear from our public. What do you
say we should hear from?
Rob? Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, you know, a lot. I don't think often. Well, maybe Ross's point that the people that are using it now pay taxes too. That's a valid point. I hadn't thought about that. Very valid point. So while I think it should be first and foremost for kids because we are a school district, I think that does make sense. I'd like to hear from the public as well. But as of now, I think something that says that non-school hours, the field's reserved for kids, would be a good compromise. During school, it can be a dog park so long as it, you know, gets cleaned up and kids aren't playing tackle and dog poo, you know, playing soccer and dog poo. That's fine. But that seems like a reasonable compromise to me. But I look forward to hearing from people.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I would like to know, is there a shortage of dog parks in the area?
Yes, there.
So
Well,
there
I'm
is.
not going to
So
answer that. I don't know.
I think that the county and the city should be notified. And if there's areas that they can create a dog park, that they need to do so. Because it's you know, this is school property and it should be used by the students. And if people aren't picking up there, then it's even worse. So we need to get a hold of the city and the county and see if they can develop something. So.
Okay, thank you. I think at this time, we'd like to call on you people that have been very patient. What we'll do we need to have them sign? Just when you come up, you have 3 minutes. Ross will keep. What's that? Yeah, we do need names. So, here, pass that down. So we'll have you sign in and then also verbally state your name for the record. And you'll each one of you can have 3 minutes to speak, okay? And maybe you can help us with this item. Yes, right up there, sir. And the microphone's already on, if you can make sure you speak right into it so that we can hear you. And thanks again for being here.
First of all,
Can you state your name for us, please?
Jim Cooper.
Thank you, Jim.
I coached soccer for 35 years, and using that field as a sports thing for kids to learn, it's almost ludicrous because their trees are too close, there are signposts everywhere, and kids are going to run into it. Okay, so for a sports venue to train children, I don't count that. And I lived across the street for 5 years at the CVI. We lived there for 2 years, and we came to there every day. Never saw a person there. 5 years. And this lately, in the last 2 years, more people have been bringing their dogs. And no one uses that park, okay? The only people that ever use it are people that walk through and their dog uses it for a potty spot or something like that. Anyway, it'll just be a vacant lot is what it will be. It's too rough for sports. And the dogs don't care. I think it's a good use for a park, and I think his idea of posting signs about liabilities and this sort of thing is a good idea. A half fence separating the pavement from the field would be great. There's no restrooms there. Where are the kids, if they come to play, where are they going to go potty? Anyway, I think it's an issue that's brought up by somebody for I don't know what reason, but I don't think it's very, very smart. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to comment? Can we comment with them? Not a motion?
Good evening. My name's Lori Story, and I live in the neighborhood there by the dog park, and I bring my dogs there quite frequently. It's been a very pleasurable experience for the dogs, for the people who own the dogs. We make a very strong effort to ensure that we are picking up after our animals. We always call out to whoever owns the dog who's doing the business and make sure that they clean up after them. It's a good social experience for them. I think it makes them better animals. I think it makes us better pet owners. I have gone there a couple of times, not last year, I don't think, but the year before, and there were some little, maybe peewee soccer teams who were practicing after 5, and none of the dogs got in the way. I mean, there weren't that many people there. So we were able to work cooperatively to facilitate it for everybody to enjoy. There isn't a dog park in the Minden metropolitan area. I think the closest one is clear out in Walmart, and like you say, there's one out in Stephanie. We appreciate the opportunity to use that facility as taxpayers, and we try to be good citizens about it. We're more than happy to abide by signage, to accept responsibility and liability for our animals and our own behavior. We'll park on the street if that's what you need us to do. We'd like to be able to continue to use this facility. And if a fence is something that could be worked out, and I have no idea what a chain link fence of that length would cost, but there may be some donations that would be available to help pay for that. So we appreciate your concern and your consideration, and thank you for your time today.
Could you please state your name one more time?
Lori Story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
It's a dog day afternoon here, isn't it?
Chino there. I'm Peter Mathern. My mom and dad were career educators. Dad, Peter, then got pancreatic his whole life. 4-H, city of County, Georgia. Not so as you could tell it from my accent, but I'm from the South. That little dog park has been a blessing to a lot of people, and I've seen this. I've met people I would have never imagined meeting. Douglas County's lucky to have that little green patch of ground over there. And I tell you, it's just wonderful to go over there. You have a blessing right there, right behind that little brick building. And I love going there. My friends love going there. If you've been there and chased up a staircase, that dog of mine would have been corrected, and Jim Cooper's dog would too. And our dogs, we try really hard over there to police our own, to pick up after our own dog and others if they've come, from wherever and left it out there. We try. But it's kind of a quasi, you've kind of got a half dog park. Got a little facility over there that's got the scooper and where you put the waste in. And if you had children, would they end up having needs for restrooms too? If you start having like teams and stuff like that, you're gonna have to provide for that too, right? So to us, you'd be taking a really big part of our life away. But that said, the children of Douglas County come first. So I hope we can find some way to make everybody in this a win-win. I read to my 3 kids a little book called Part-Time Dog when they were little. There was 3 little old ladies, and those little old ladies had one dog, and they'd share it in the backyard. And then one day, guess what they did? At the very end of the book, they took the fence down because they all were right next to each other, and the dog just went from all 3. So sharing is what we teach our kids. And sharing that little piece of green patch over there with little 4-leggers, some big 4-leggers, but is also teaching them. If they see as they're growing up, because we've had kids too, one that Maddie knows they're Maddie and came across the street and they would play together, and it was just so rewarding to watch those little kids get blessed with those dogs. So if there's obviously aggressive dogs and different things like that, you would want to have postings, and you certainly need to think about liability as a school board and as a community, for sure, and facilities. But a little half fence on there, maybe an entrance where, it's a little around the corner and we park on the outside and not come into the parking lot as much and that kind of thing. I think there's solutions, and I think there's a lot of smart people in this community. Among them, right here. I don't envy it, your position, but I sure thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Thank you for listening to us. I'm Wayne Bradley, and I moved here from California. A lot of people have moved to Nevada from California, and I am so glad that most of the Californians are staying there or going someplace else, because Mendon, Gardnerville, Douglas County is a great place, and you should be very proud to represent the school district. And as far as the dog park and the liability, I know some of you are old enough to remember the commercial they had on television that showed the basketball courts with a big chain link fence around it and a big chain locking the door because they didn't want kids going in there to play. Well, if liability is the concern, you've got a basketball court there, and if liability is the concern, we can put the sign up, and we, desperately yell, scream, and discipline our dogs when they do chase people. And as far as you riding your wheeled scooter, dogs love to chase anything with wheels. And I wish we could say, well, we're not going to have them chase you, but if you get on the sidewalk on the outside of that fence and ride a scooter, you're probably going to get a dog. They're not trying to hurt you. They just like to chase things that move. And so anyway, my point being with the liability, if you put a sign up so that, everyone knows that, they're responsible for their own dog's actions, I don't see why that wouldn't suffice. If someone gets hurt in that basketball court, who's liable? I'm not a lawyer, I don't know. I don't even try to assume, but I think it's going to happen. Okay? Now, as said earlier, parking. So I will confess that sometimes I get irritated because there isn't a place to park right there, and we park on the street. But hey, that's an easy fix. We can park on the street. I mean, if that's the biggest problem, we're hurting. I appreciate your time, and again, I do appreciate your diligence. You're working with the school. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wayne.
I have a question. Is that a piece of property that the school is ever going to develop?
I wouldn't anticipate so.
So maybe this is something where the community can get together, have a committee, have some fundraisers, get the county and the city involved so that maybe you can turn it into a dog park, because it seems like there's a need there. I've been a dog lover my whole life. I have a dog now. And that dog park off of Stephanie there, if you ever get a chance to go over there, it's amazing. It's amazing. So this would be a benefit to the community if the school district can donate the property to the county or the city, since we're never going to use it, and make it a dog park. So all the citizens that have dogs in the area should get together, make a committee, maybe have some fundraisers, have a carnival or whatever, and create something. It's a benefit for everybody.
Thank you. I have a question for council. Our signs, does that release us if we have signs posted for the liability? And is there signs posted on the basketball court? That would be for Keith.
You can answer the basketball court, no.
Okay.
So the signage is an attempt to release for liability, but there is nothing that would prevent somebody from, if they got hurt out there, suing the district. It's a defense for sure as far as use at your own risk, but if you have people using the dog park and the person that gets hurt is not using the dog park, certainly the signage says the person with the dog is liable, but there's nothing to prevent that person from also suing the district. So you could, it's helpful for a defense, but there's so many questions and factual specific scenarios when you're talking about negligence. So you have the signage up. Is somebody from the school district monitoring the people in the dog park and kicking people out who have aggressive dogs, or is nobody monitoring it and you just have the sign up and nobody's doing anything? So is that negligence on the school's part? because it is your property? You know, those kinds of questions do come up.
Do
So
we know how the dog parks get around?
I don't know. I don't know that they do.
Oh, Rob?
Can I ask a question of council and then make a comment?
Sure.
My understanding as far as basketball goes is when you're participating in a given event or a given activity, like say basketball, you assume certain risks that take place when you're playing basketball. You may get a basketball to the face. You may fall down and hurt yourself. Those are things that happen naturally during basketball. And those are risks that you assume when you take on that activity, especially on public grounds. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, that's an argument that can be made to absolve the school district from liability from
Okay.
that type of an incident.
And so then with the dog park, if someone comes in, so let's say that there is an aggressive dog, that dog bites somebody, and, you know, an enterprising lawyer looks at our policy and says, hey, wait a minute, you guys have a policy that says you can't have dogs on your ground. And you knowingly let dogs on your ground. In fact, you helped facilitate it by putting up garbage cans and providing poop bags. Like, is that an issue?
Sure.
Okay, so we've got a problem. We've got to do something today. We either need to change our policy to allow dogs, or we need to not allow dogs, or something. We need to do something. I personally want to see that area get used. I've been working with Keith for a few months with some private donations to replace the basketball hoops, because the kids go out there and play. They hit the basketball court, they play. They don't have bathrooms, and yet somehow they're able to do it. Maybe they have very large bladders. I don't know, but they can do it. I assume that the same thing could happen with kids. We had a public commenter say that the grass is no good for training, and I disagree with that. I had kids there. Like I said, bigger ones aren't going to be there, but smaller ones, they can be. They put up a tiny little goal and they run around in a very small area and they play. I don't know if we want to donate the land, but I like Tony's idea. I was thinking the same thing of saying, hey, we got a community that wants dogs. Let's give them the opportunity to raise the money for the fence. I don't think we should do that. But I think we do need to do something today. Otherwise, we are knowingly being negligent. And now it's on record that we're being knowingly negligent.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Ross.
Well, first of all, there's a whole lot of history with that land. The land was donated by the Dangberg family years ago for a school. And actually, I went to first and second grade there, okay? And it was a school, and the grassy area was where our playground was, okay? And where the other area where all the pavement is was nothing but dirt, and that's where our playground was too. But, you know, it's since got paved over. It's a district office. I'm not sure that we can ever get rid of that land. It's kind of like Zephyr Cove. If you don't use it as a school, then it reverts back to the Wattell estate, okay? So I'm not sure we can ever sell or get rid of that land without it going back to the Dangberg estate, okay? And that's something that would have to be researched by somebody. But like I said, it is used by kids, little kids, in the evenings and things like that. If it's going to be a dog park, you know, during the day, there's got to be rules. Number one, hopefully, and I know the district can't afford it. We were just talking about a $2.8 million budget shortfall maybe this year and in years future. And to put a fence around there for the purpose of making it a dog park is prohibitive. You know, we're gonna have to make some real hard decisions on, you know, probably down the road on what programs we even keep. Okay, so and I'm not in favor of letting the public use it. Like I said before, you're taxpayers. I'm not in favor of not letting you use it, but I want it to be safe, and I want to limit the liability of the district. Is there any possibility of any any fundraising to help support the idea of putting a fence around it, that we could fence the area in to keep the dogs in and keep people safe that are going to the district office. I'd ask, it's got to be a commitment from the people that want to use it too, I think, as well as the district to allow you to use it. So those are just my thoughts.
Those are good thoughts. I'm looking at you on the screen. Sorry, Superintendent Lewis. Go ahead.
I would be more than glad to get together with the community and try to figure something out so that we can, have an amicable agreement and use it. Because if the school is never going to develop it, it's a benefit to the community to do something with it. And I can check out the legalities of what it would take to donate the property to the county or the city or whatever. And I would be more than glad to donate my time to help you do whatever you want to do with the property, make it a dog park. And so everybody, you can find my number, my phone number. So give me a call, let's set up a committee.
Superintendent Lewis, you had your hand up first. And
Let's
then
go Trustee Lehman first.
Okay, Trustee Lehman, thank you.
I just want to say to Trustee Magnata, while the school district may not be developing the land, keep in mind that the Parks and Rec has said that the land would be used by kids for practices and such, if they knew that it was available. So I don't think that we're talking about either letting it be a dog park or letting it be nothing, because it will be used according to the Director of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, Superintendent Lewis, thank you, Rob.
So if I can make a recommendation, I absolutely agree that something has to be done. Some guidance given to us, and maybe we're at the point where, again, it depends on where you're at as a board. If you want to direct staff to bring back 713, looking at a dual use facility. I also think that it might behoove us to go out and at least get a bid. I don't think that would be too time consuming to do. And then engage the town of Minden, JD Frisbee, and also maybe Parks and Rec to see if there is a willingness to maybe look at the fencing for community use. I don't know what their response will be. JD probably doesn't appreciate me putting his name on record. You can tell him, Trustee Lehman, heads up. Anyways, but maybe, I'm willing to, for the record, I've had a lot of eyeballs on me. This is not, I did not bring this before you tonight. I want a win-win solution. I think there is a need in the community for why these people are here tonight. I also agree with Trustee Lehman. There's a need in the community for more space for youth. I think we could make both happen, but it will take a little bit of time. But I don't think we wait for the time it may take to get funding for a fence before we address the policy in itself. I think that is risky to just ignore it. For the reasons that have been mentioned tonight.
So, Trustee Engelkirk?
I just think that if we need to do action on this as a proposal, can we just change the 713, is that the statute? And make it like a dual use, like this can be a dog park and for kids? And can we, as a part of the proposal, just say, okay, we're going to put signs up saying this, you use this at your own risk, and it's kids after school hours have priority, but it can be used as a dog park, have that in our whatever statute it is. That would be my proposal, and then we just put up signs, and then if we can get a fence, great, and if we can't, at least we've taken the whatever rule that we have against dogs off.
Yeah, and I think that you can direct me to come back with revisions to board policy 713 with what you're suggesting. And again, I think we would want to phrase it as such. We're not just opening every one of our school facilities to dogs. I mean, our schools are our schools. This is an exception, and we would write that policy to that location with that amendment if that's the desire of the board. with those parameters, like you, I mean, we would put some of those parameters in place.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion then for that, Keith?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Lehman?
So sometimes we do motions and then they're on the table and they're kind of annoying. So I want to propose some language of a motion and then discuss it if that's possible before it actually gets seconded or anything.
I like that idea.
So I would say, the motion would say that the board directs staff to post signage regarding liability, and that use of a dog park be limited to non-school hours, and that board policy 713 be amended to say any animal on there's an easy place to put in except for the grass area at the district. That's very easy. For this reason, any animal be approved by the principal for allowed on district property except for the grass area at the district offices. I think that would be very easy to fix 713. The second to last sentence at the end, except for the district offices. So that's a suggestion. I wouldn't mind if we can maybe discuss that.
Trustee Chichester?
Yeah, I like it. I don't have a problem with your motion whatsoever. The only thing is, I think in order to totally, and it may not need to go into motion, but it needs to be an understanding that we need, at some point in time, we need to find a funding source and some fencing for that area to make it secure, not only for the people that work at the DO, but also for the animals, because, you know, I mean, they can get out and get into the street and they can get hit too. And I know you guys are really, really good about it, but there are people down there sometimes that are not good about it. And there really are. And it needs to be secured in some way. And obviously, we're not going to be able to afford it, but we need to look at different ways that, you know, the superintendent said, for funding to take place and it to become a dual purpose area. And that shouldn't go in the motion, but it has to be an understanding that that's what we need to have in order to make it functional.
I think the motion has to be limited to that specific piece of property.
Yes.
You can't just generally get rid of something, because then it opens up the can of worms for the rest of the school property.
Right. That's true.
I think the motion that Trustee Lehman is discussing is very specific to that piece of land.
Okay. Rob, do you want to go ahead then? And I know you've stated what you wanted in the motion. Do you want to go ahead and make a motion?
Yeah, my only question is, do we want to say in the motion that we'll revisit this in 9 months, 12 months, and we hope that the community, and we would like those interested parties to come up with a funding source for a fence? Do we want to add that? Yeah?
I think that's a
I
good
do
idea.
too. I think that's a good idea too.
Okay, then I'll go for the motion here, and Karen, I can send it to you. I would like to make a motion that the board directs staff to do 1, post signage regarding liability, and that the use of the dog park be limited to non-school hours. 2, board policy 713 be amended to add the words, except for the grass area at the district office that is regularly used by dogs. And 3, this item be revisited in 1 year. Be revisited in 1 year to discuss community efforts to install a fence.
Could I make a motion? What do you, amendment?
He's making a motion.
Right,
Okay.
but there was one misstatement, I think.
What
You're
was that?
saying to be used during non-school hours. So you're saying that they can't use the dog park during school hours? It should be.
You meant you meant school hours.
Should be allowed during school hours. And it
So
would be a priority to kids.
You're right. You're absolutely correct, Doug.
Good catch, Doug.
To be limited to school hours. Thank you.
Okay.
So could I offer a friendly motion on that? That we would maybe consider going 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I don't anticipate on a weekday we would have any practice there.
I'm sorry, could you restate that?
So what I'm just requesting is school hours can be defined differently. You've got an elementary schedule, you've got a secondary schedule. I think 4 o'clock p.m. would be safe as a last point on a weekday, and 7 a.m. in the morning. So maybe define those hours between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Do we want to do that? Go ahead.
Are you saying you don't want to be able to allow dogs there after 4? Because a lot of people walk their dogs in the evening, and there's not always going to be kids there. It seems to me it can be used as a dog park, but children should have priority after school hours.
I don't disagree with that.
So my thought there, Doug, just to give you my thought, is if we put this in place, we can see how much the community actually will use it in that year. So we're going to give it a year. We're going to tell Parks and Rec, hey, this is available after 4 p.m. And we'll see what happens. If we see that nobody's using it, when we discuss this again, let's blow it up. But I think we should protect some hours to say that this is available without dogs for use by kids. That's my thought.
I'm looking at out in the audience, and I'm getting heads nodded that the 7 to 4 is okay.
Yeah, and I would agree. If we don't have a definitive time that we can tell Parks and Rec, then then we really can't offer it to them.
I think that's the compromise. Trustee Magnata?
The way the dog park is run over off of Stephanie there in the Johnson Lane area, it's closed from a specific period of time so they can maintain it, mow the lawn, so on and so forth. So you have to include that in the hours that it's going to be open. And we really need to do some more investigations and planning on what it's going to take to make it a dog park, if that's what we deem is going to be the right thing. It's a benefit to the community. So I think that the school wants to be a benefit to the community. That's obvious, and the taxpayers. So I think that we need to do some investigation to figure out what this is going to take along with the community so that we can figure this out and come up with a great decision.
I would like to just say something first, and then Trustee Aguilar, I'll go to you. I think the idea was to try to keep this dog park open tomorrow for them, and the next day, and the next day. How do we keep people off of it? How do we, you know what I mean? Where do you draw that line? So I think we were trying to, Trustee Lehman was trying to make a motion so that we could give them time to work. I mean, I think the end result is to try to put a fence up to begin with, as soon as we can, but to try to keep it open and to play nice with the kids as well after 4 was my understanding. So I think that's why he made that specific motion. Again, we're going to have to vote on it and whatever. So yes, you have your motion on the floor.
The motion is made and seconded, then we still get the board policy revised and brought back to us.
Right. Yes,
so
that's true.
things just move.
Right.
And we need to set parameters of what our rules are going to be. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Karen? No one has seconded it yet. I think we need to hear it.
Yeah, I need to change it.
We need to hear it again, because he changed it. He changed it to school hours. That was the only change. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
So let me ask a question. When I redo this, what are we doing on weekends? Can we protect it all day Saturday for kids? Can we say 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday through Friday, so that all day Saturday? Because Saturday mornings are. What's some input there?
I don't think we should necessarily limit the dogs. I think we should just give priority to kids during non-school hours. So you don't say you can't use it as a dog owner if nobody's using it, because there's going to be a lot of times in the evenings when it's not being used, and it's silly to not allow dog owners to use the park if that's what people are using it for. So I think it should just be the motion to say something to the effect of during non-school hours, kids programs have priority over dog usage. And I don't think we even need to address the maintenance issue. They're going to come in and maintain it, and the dog owners are just going to have to stay out of the way. And so we're just getting into minutia there. So let's just, if we could just make the motion to something to that effect, is that okay?
I personally have kind of a hard time with that because then you're into a gray area. If we have hours of this is a dog park hours and this is non-dog park hours, then it's clear. What happens if a team shows up and there's a group of dog owners that aren't here today, the responsible ones, and they, there's a problem. I really would like to see protected hours personally, and so I guess I'm curious what the will of the board is.
I don't know. All right. I don't think we need to be that specific. If there's kids using it, there shouldn't be dogs there. I mean, it can be on the signs. This is a school facility first. If there are student activities or activities going on, they're for the students are using this field. It is not a dog. I mean, you're not allowed to have your dog there because there's a school activity happening.
I agree.
I mean, like I say, I go by there, 100 times a day, and half the time there's nobody there. No kids are there. But sometimes in the fall, before we had COVID and everything, the little kids were out there practicing, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was an informal thing with the coaches. And I mean, normally there wasn't any dogs there, but on Saturday and Sunday morning, there could be people. People usually take their dogs there every day of the week, that live in the area. So if the kids are there, the kids got priority. If the kids aren't there,
right, I agree.
Yeah, and Doug, can I? Yeah. I guess I'm a little confused why there has to be a motion made without all the board policy being revised to have all these different ideas put into it. I see that right now we're in a sea of weeds. We've got so many ideas popping up. How can you possibly put that in a motion to pass tonight?
Can we just all given direction to the superintendent? I mean, it's kind of confusing direction, but put something together.
Yes.
And then bring it forward, and then we can.
I agree. I think we don't put anything forward tonight. We wait and give Keith a chance to put something together for us to bring forward. You've heard our ideas. I don't know. Rob, what do you think?
I don't see the weeds that Trustee Kangas is talking about. We can amend 713 right now so that we're no longer knowledgeably negligent. We can require signed postage so that that's on record, signage posted so that that's on record. We can define the hours of when it's being used. I think this is our job.
We haven't been able to do that yet, though, Rob.
Say what?
There's two different fields of thought here. There's one that we define specific hours that the dogs can be there 7 to 4, Monday through Friday or whatever.
Sunday through Friday.
Okay, and then the other school of thought is the dogs can be there whenever, but kids have priority. So those are the two.
I agree.
Those are the only. So
yeah. Okay.
I personally think the second is what I would vote for.
I do too.
And I think.
Rob, why don't you go ahead and make your motion again or whatever, and then
Can I just say something first?
Sure.
I think we really need to do some investigative work on what we can do with the property. If the county and the city is interested in making it a dog park, and that's what the citizens want, I think this is all premature. I think we need to do some more investigations and figure out how we're going to put all this together.
Okay, thank you.
President Gilkerson, I absolutely agree, Trustee McNaughton, and my commitment is to do that. but I think we have an issue in the interim. That can't happen quickly in government work, as you've learned, real quickly in this job. But I do think that there is the issue of, we're aware of an issue, we probably need to address it on the record, but I'm committed as superintendent to do what you're saying, and don't necessarily need a motion to do that part, to reach out to the town of Minden and possibly the parks.
All righty, thank you. So do we have a motion made? Is there a motion that's been made? I've lost track.
There has, but it's been changed so much that it wouldn't be seconded, would be my guess.
Okay.
I could
No,
try
it has
again.
not been seconded, so why don't we go ahead and make that motion?
Can I make a motion that the board, I make a motion for three things. One, the board directs staff to install signage regarding liability, and that the use of the field at the district office only be allowed as a dog park when children are not present. Two, board policy 713 be amended to add the words "except for the grass area at the district office" at the end of the second to last sentence. And three, direct staff to bring back a report on how this field can be used as a dog park better or not used, and to hear community efforts to install a fence.
I
Thank
second
you.
that.
Okay, motion made by trustee Lehman, second by trustee Engelkirk. This is also time for, if you have public comment, anything else you'd like to add? Yes. We want to hear from you.
I think that's an excellent motion with maybe one clarification as to when children are present. Would it be where organized children activities are occurring?
Yeah, I think that's what I would say. If you see, if there's kids there with a coach and they're doing something, yes.
Right.
That would be the intent of this, okay? Not one kid standing in the field and you can't go on there.
Or coming with you.
Yes. Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board again for this opportunity. I think that half fence, I think somebody mentioned it, like a half fence. You've already got three sides. I don't know how the bid process works, but Jim is an engineer. He could probably do a bid on a small half fence as a civil engineer pretty quickly, couldn't you, Jim? So there's benefits in talking and utilizing the community, certainly, and we'd love to. I'd volunteer my time to help build it.
Thank you.
Just a handyman, but I can do a pretty mean fence.
That's what we're hoping for. Anybody else? If no other comments, then we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes 6-0. And thank you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Do we want to also, Mr. Magnotta suggested a committee. Do we want to actually set one up officially and invite some members of the public and work on this?
Board?
I think we need to establish a committee and figure out exactly what to do, period.
I'd be willing to work on that if one got established.
I'll volunteer.
Are you talking about a subcommittee or just a volunteer? Sounds like a subcommittee to me. Do we have to motion that? Motion for, okay, I need a motion to establish a subcommittee to work with the public.
Let's do it like a volunteer. These three agree to get together and discuss it.
I think we have to do a subcommittee, Doug, sorry. So I need someone to make a motion.
Are you sure we need a motion for a subcommittee?
Carolyn's shaking her head yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion that the board establish a subcommittee, including any of the people here that were including any of the members of the public that were here to talk about the dog park, and 2 or 3 members of the board, as we can define later.
Okay.
And any other people that the district wants to include.
Okay. Okay. Any public comment on our subcommittee? Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have to, sorry.
Sir, my concern is that we are identifying specific members of the community. I believe we should be identifying who our subcommittee is. They all can attend as a public meeting in that, but that's.
So we need to designate.
My intention was to acknowledge and recognize these 3 or 4 people that came here to speak as 3 or 4 community leaders on this topic, and to invite them to be part of the committee. If they don't want to be part of the committee, that's fine, but I just wanted to give that invitation.
Give them a 10, yeah.
Acknowledge them and give them an invitation to attend the meeting. And they'll provide.
Why wouldn't we have them on the committee?
I'm sorry?
Why wouldn't we want them on the committee?
I'm not saying that you wouldn't want them on the committee, but right now it's important to identify the members of the board that are going to be on the
There you
committee,
go.
and then.
I see what you're saying.
Yes, I do too. Okay. All right. So we are going to, you've made a motion for a subcommittee with the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And identify the 3
And identify the 3 people.
3 board members.
3 board members was Rob, Tony, and Ross, right? Okay. And then we'll go ahead, and I asked for public comment. There was none. So we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
You'll be contacted. Okay. Next item is item number 18. Process to replace vacant trustee positions. This is discussion and possible action. We've had a couple instances where we've had to replace a trustee in the middle of their term. And so, okay, you know what? How about if can we take a break? We need to take a break. I'm sorry. We're going to take it is 7:19. We will come back at 7:25. We're taking a 6-minute break just because we have to. 7:27. Oops. Okay, it is now 7:27 and we're back after our little break. And we're moving on now to item number 18. We took out of order, and this is the process to replace vacant trustee positions. It's for discussion and possible action. A little background, you were all provided a printout of what was used the last 2 times, maybe 3, of how we went about finding a new trustee. So who would like to talk about this? Trustee Engelkirk?
Could I make a suggestion? And I don't know if this is possible, since we've kind of worn ourselves out and this meeting's going long. We don't have a trustee that's stepping down anytime soon. Could we put this off to another meeting?
I have a comment from Trustee Lehman.
Thumbs up.
Oh, was that a thumbs up? I couldn't see it.
Yeah, that was simply a thumbs up.
Okay. Do we have to make a motion to do that? Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we table this item until the next meeting, item 18, about replacing the vacant trustee position, so we have more time to discuss it.
Second.
Oh, Rob.
Rob, second. Okay. So motion made, seconded by Trustee Lehman. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, trustee Engelkirk and trustee Lehman. Okay, now we need a motion to go into closed session. Okay.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Chichester, seconded by trustee Kangas. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. We're going to closed session. 6-0. Turn your mics off.
Thing that we added to the unused sick leave portion of their contract or agreement is that any administrator who meets the criteria to receive a buyout and acquires accumulated amount of sick leave equal to their contract year plus 50 additional catastrophic leave days, they would receive $1,000 bonus. The intent of this is to minimize the use of sick leave. Then the other thing that's been added to their language is lateral transfer language, which gives administrators the first right to apply for internal transfers within the district into a position that is either lateral on the same salary schedule or equal salary schedule, or to a salary schedule that is lower than theirs. They would have first right to apply for this. The district would consider those applications for placement into those positions, but they are not guaranteed that they'd be given that, just have the first opportunity to take a shot at those postings. That's all that I have to share about the administrators meet and confer. Is there any questions on that language?
I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve the agreement with the Douglas County Administrators Association.
Okay, motion made by trustee Chichester, seconded by trustee Magnata. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Joe, you're on the next item too, number 22. The Douglas County Confidential Employees Meet and Confer document for discussion and possible action.
All right, thank you. Our classified, our confidential employees were even easier than our administrators as far as what we worked on for them. Their changes are also around unused sick leave, and their agreement currently is that they can accumulate up to 248 days of unused sick leave that they can be paid for at the end of their career. They asked for language that would allow a beneficiary to receive this benefit if they were to pass away while in service with the district, which makes sense that their beneficiary would receive that, and that is the only change to their agreement.
All right, thank you.
I'm making a motion that we approve the agreement with Douglas County Confidential Employees.
Motion made
I'll second it.
Second by Ross.
Get this going.
Public comment? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Okay, we're on to number 23. Excuse me, prioritizing agenda, possible items for future board meetings. If you look at what we have in our packet, you can see that many of these things we can take off. Excuse me.
Number three.
Number
three.
number 3, 1, 2, 3.
Audio, video.
The audio video, that would be
Oh,
number
wait,
4.
that's number
4. Number 3 will,
guys
we'll
have
probably do it in July. We'll meet as a committee between now and then. Yes, and number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we tabled till next time. Number 6 is something we'll do after a survey in the fall. Number 7, regarding the dog park, we took care of that. The second to last,
President Gilkerson?
yes, sir.
Can I, the last board meeting, we talked about the discussion regarding gender identity and parent notification policies. I did confirm that that survey is anticipated to be conducted in the fall. So
Right,
that would probably be a discussion we'd want to have in July.
okay. This
It'll-
July?
Yeah, it'll come up sooner. It probably, we would be looking more in October before the survey is conducted, but it is in the fall, not spring this year.
So do we not want to have the discussion after the survey or no?
Before.
Before? I'm sorry.
The purpose of this, if I'm correct, was we want to talk about notification, how we're notifying, and also
Okay,
that specific question. And Amber Reed from the Department of Safe and Respectful Learning Environment said she'd be more than welcome, more than happy to come and talk to the board, give you a little bit of background on
awesome.
that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Sorry, I was going backwards, which is, not surprising. Okay, the dog park, I think we've, and then the next one was the mask, and we were going to do that in July.
No, we
Oh, we
a
did the
letter,
mask,
but
sorry, the
2
last,
people voted against it.
but I thought you were going to bring forward a resolution or something, no? That's in July, right?
Well, we will be bringing a resolution, but it,
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. And then the last thing is NASB. And I did want to let you know that I spoke with the executive director of NASB as well as, well, no, I just spoke with her, sorry. And I was going to invite them to come speak to our at our meeting in July. Her and the president, which is Laurel, what's her last name? Crossman, thank you. Anyways, so we'll put that on in July as well. Okay? Any other, does anyone want to add anything to future board agenda? All righty, I think we're good. Do we have to make a motion?
Move to
Public
adjourn.
comment.
Oh, sorry. Is there any public comment? We need to go one more public comment. Seeing none. Rob has something. Rob?
Sorry, I was trying to raise my hand during that last item. I don't know if we've moved
Sorry.
on. On the NASB item, what are those two coming to do?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What are the two coming to do for the NASB item?
Deb Oliver is the executive director and Laura Crossman is the president of NASB.
What are they coming to do?
They're going to come talk with our new board members specifically, but also everyone, because there's been some new things happening with NASB, and I know there's some questions and concerns about our membership. So I thought we could have them come and explain what's new and what's available, and then our members could familiarize themselves with what they do, what's available. Because I thought we were talking about, excuse me, having a discussion about it.
Yeah, okay.
I thought if they could come
I just
talk.
think we should probably be a little careful with presentations and such. I think this is our second meeting now that we've pushed over 4 hours and we lose it a bit. So,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. All righty. Any other comments? I move that we adjourn. Thank you.
Hit it.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna crush